Alright, okay. Sin's making no sense. Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Let's fix this and turn this off. So, you're going to say we are live.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I just had, do you know what I just had in my soul?
A vision?
Remember the first, what?
A vision?
Like a feeling, like that's why I was a little bit like, remember the first time we talked and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to a great poor person. I just had that now, like, I'm like,
Okay.
oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to Sophie.
Yeah. Okay.
Sophie.
He's saying we haven't really
So,
moved on
Sophie,
as people in the last, say.
no.
Good, okay.
So, oh yeah, hi Sophie, hi everyone. Cursillion, Battle Royale, Lemon Bread, Painful Discourse, Rattle Royale. Oh, I think that's like Battle Royale. Well, Joshua, Beautiful Bear, Yuki. Hi, welcome. So, Sophie,
Yes.
I have a very special what, where, why for you today.
Okay.
So, the community asked some what, where, why questions that you have not heard before.
No. Sin, can you explain what, where, why is to people who haven't seen it before?
It's interesting that you pointed out because when I asked people for questions, I was like, hey, give us some www questions. And a couple of people were like, what's that? And somebody went like, it means like World War, don't you know, or you do here, ha ha ha. It was very funny. But What Where Why is basically a series, as started as a Bloodborne series, it continued as a Soulsborne series where we ask 3 questions about a specific character, location, or concept in Soulsborne. And those 3
Yep.
questions are...
I can do this, hang on. What,
Yes?
where,
Oh, what was the third one?
when.
I'm very disappointed in you, so.
Apparently you're a little
But
quiet.
was it?
I'm gonna make you a
I'm a
little
little
quieter.
quiet.
That's okay.
Okay.
You're in the
Okay.
yellow range now.
I'm in the yellow range. That's
Yeah.
because Sophie's trying to save people's ears for when my boyfriend inadvertently like startles me accidentally.
And he startles you accidentally by doing things like walking into the room,
Yeah.
acknowledging that you're there,
Yeah.
saying hello.
True.
Yeah. And Sin, a lot of people have come on board recently. We haven't done a what, where, why for a while. I think the last one was Vike.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. So basically, a lot of our what, where, whys are actually on Patreon because they're too bad to be on the channel.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those ones are edited. So this is going to be one of the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is easily going to be one of the worst things we've ever done.
Well, look, somebody says there's also some noise fuzz going on, and that's like representative of what, where, why is actually.
Is there?
I don't know. Valve said there is.
Okay. I think it might be my microphone.
This is good. This is part of the what, where, why experience. That's how it
Oh, yeah,
usually
hang
goes
on.
when we record.
Yeah, no, I'm noticing there's like a fuzz thing on the
Oh.
mixer. If I just turn my gain down. I don't know if this is better. It's less thingy. Yeah, the fan noise is because my microphone is next to where my computer's fan is. But
Oh.
it's also
Mhm,
usually
yeah.
there as the thing, so
Hmm.
it's reduced. Okay, thank
It's
you.
good. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Why would you do this at 10:20 p.m.?
Well, because it's the
What? It's
final
like,
day of Return to Yharnam, okay?
oh, is it?
That's why we're doing
Oh,
this.
that was fast. That was fast.
2 weeks.
Return to
Two
Yharnam
weeks.
passed by. Wow. Damn.
I'm going to quickly shove a
But
noise
it's
gate
like
on the
morning
microphone and
here.
see if that helps.
What?
I just quickly shoved a noise gate on the mic to see if that helps. We'll figure it out. Okay, so yeah, it's the final day of Return to Yharnam. And this is our third Return to Yharnam video that we've done. So we'll just quickly talk about why we do these.
Yes.
So we do these to help support Bloodborne Wiki. Bloodborne Wiki is a community project that is run largely by Mephistophea. So it's run by one person. She is basically doing the whole thing. She's written the entire website in Notepad in a series of like cafes in the Czech Republic. She's done all the graphics and layout herself. She's written most of it herself as well. There's some contributions by people like me, Xtrin, Foxy, people with sort of different skill sets within the community. And even though it's got Wiki in the title, one of the things about Bloodborne Wiki is that it doesn't allow just anyone to edit it and anyone to submit something. It all has to be fact-checked. So there's no kind of extraneous, inaccurate information on the site as far as we know, because one of the big issues when Bloodborne first came out is that there was a lot of inaccurate information that got repeated on places like the Fandom Wiki and the Fextra Life Wiki and the Wikidot, and they just kind of kept circling around the community and being repeated. That was partially just people not knowing how the game worked, and another part of it was that when Bloodborne first launched, it came with a strategy guide, and the strategy guide this is not the fault of the people that wrote the strategy guide, it was based on a pre-release build of the game that worked slightly differently. So ever since then, it's just been this real focus on, like, we've got to make sure that everything is accurate. So it's a real labor of love. Everyone's worked really hard on it, and the most important thing about the Bloodborne Wiki is it does not run ads.
Yeah.
So there's no obnoxious, huge banner ads on the side of the screen. There's not like picture-in-picture of Meph streaming Stellar Blade or something. But that also means that the site doesn't generate revenue through advertising. So the way that we generate the revenue is through a Ko-fi account. It's ko-fi.com/Mephistophea. So if you could go there, it's not like a Patreon or something where you have to sign up for it. You can just kick her like $5 or $10 or something, and that just adds up and helps the wiki stay afloat, basically. Because it's we'll go over it quite a bit today, I think, and there's a lot of images, audio, video. There's like whole unused cutscenes, whole books scanned at high resolution, all hosted there, and all that does take up bandwidth, which costs money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's really, really good. Like, we get a lot of our information from there. When we edit our videos, we get a lot of things from there. So it's like a really excellent wiki.
Yeah.
And it's Bloodborne-wiki.
Yes, Bloodborne-wiki, yeah. So, Sin, it's time. It's time for What We're Why to begin.
Yes.
And because we are raising money for Bloodborne Wiki, everything that's mentioned in What We're Why, we will find the relevant Bloodborne Wiki page and talk about it there.
Boom.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Question 1.
Okay.
What does www mean? It's a joke. But it was a question.
Okay. Question. So it's what, where, why, www.
Yes.
Okay. So what?
www.bloodborne-wiki.com.
So www, what that is it's an acronym. Actually, no, I think it's an initialism rather than an acronym. Where it is on the computer now, and why it's there is because Sin had a lot of questions about Bloodborne and needed there to be a simple format with which to answer them.
Yes, and it was like the specific thing was it's one specific thing per episode. So it could be like one weapon per episode, one badge per episode, one character per episode. That was the thing. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm keeping track of these. We have answered what, where, why.
Thank you.
Okay, what's the next one?
The next one is, what phobias does ROM, the Vacuous Spider, draw from and inspire?
Okay, so let's pull up the Bloodborne Wiki page.
That's an interesting one. And that's from Graham Stoner.
Graham is a known ROM appreciator.
Yeah, even their like picture in Discord, I think it's
Mm.
them marrying Rom.
Yeah, Rom is their waifu. I mean, one of many
Yeah,
waifus.
yeah.
I do talk to Graham. Okay, so
Oh.
go.
Have you done Weapons of Bloodborne or Doors of Bloodborne?
We've not done doors yet.
I
Doors can be for Return to Yharnam 2025, the 10-year anniversary.
we did. I feel like we did do weapons here and there, but we did talk about one specific door, but not in a what or why
Okay,
format.
well I've got the ROM gallery up.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So this gallery, you'll notice it's from in-game. This is not like a 3D
Hmm.
model that's been extracted and is being viewed. And this was done by a community pillar, I would say Xtrin,
Hmm.
who
Hmm. Yeah,
basically figured out how to use a save editor to turn enemy AI off.
yeah.
So she was able to just get into Rom's arena and not have Rom or the spiders like actually do anything. So that's how she's
Yeah, that's
able to
so
get all
cool.
these. Yeah. So, phobia that Rom represents. Sin, what do you think Rom represents?
Um, I feel like Rom represents a phobia of wide open spaces.
That's true because we do have the
Yeah,
lake. Yeah. Do you
yeah,
think
yeah.
that from Micolash's point of view, there's a lot of professional envy around Rom?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
Let's go to the dialogue reference page. So you're only allowed to stay here for another 90 minutes. I don't have to go. So I reckon if
Yeah,
you
so
have to
you
go and we
can
have
do this
leftover wet
forever.
wise,
Like,
you just paste them in Discord and I'll grab them from that. Yeah, so Micolash has a little bit here where he's talking to
yeah.
Koz and he says, Koz, do you hear our prayers? As you once did for the vacuous Rom, grant us eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He,
Grandpa
he is
Song.
a little jealous that it was Rom who got to become a vast monstrous spider rather than Micolash. Basically,
Okay,
Rom
I'm
got
gonna
Rom got
suggest.
a promotion. Micolash was passed up for it. He's mad.
He's very mad because
Yeah,
theoretically, it's been I don't know how many years since Micolash mummified. So at least
quite
a
a while.
couple. Yeah, and he's still running around ranting about Rom.
Yeah, he just
So
can't let
Rom's
it
been
go.
living,
It's
yeah,
living rent free in his head.
exactly for the past 100 years.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say, Rom. What is Rom?
Hmm.
Rom is a spider who wasn't smart enough to not be a spider.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. She's like the gifted kid who doesn't really reach their potential.
yeah.
Where she is she's simultaneously in a lake and under the upper cathedral ward altar.
Yes, yes.
And why she's there is that she is incomprehensibly preventing the Red Moon from happening in one of the plot points of the game that frankly is never explained.
Yeah.
Like
You
I
just gotta
don't
feel it,
think,
you know?
yeah, like I don't think Bloodborne is that confusing a story.
Hmm.
I don't think any of the Souls games are frankly that confusing, but like there's certain bits in Bloodborne that are just a big question mark in the sense that like
Hmm.
the game never tells you how that works. You can come up with reasons why it works, but there's nothing in the game that actually really explains how Rom is stopping the Red Moon or when Rom started doing that. She just is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rom is essentially bullying the Red Moon into not appearing.
Well, I mean, the closest you can get is like Rom is like within the reflection of the moon on the lake. So maybe getting rid of
Hmm.
Rom is like she's somehow like on top of the moon, preventing the moon coming through. And then when you get rid of her, the moon's able to break through. But it's just sort of who knows. Like on Vulpes Obscura
Hmm.
says, "What big spider where in her lane thinking." In her lake thinking. I read that as lane, as if it's that meme about being
What?
hydrated in your
Sophie, are
lane.
you okay? It says in her lane thriving.
Thriving. Okay. Do you know what's happened? I thought I'd be able to get through
What?
the stream without mentioning this.
What?
Sometimes when I have my dual monitor set up running a certain way, it confuses the screen I'm looking at now, and it gets like
Uh-huh.
distorted, and I can't read text
Oh,
properly, and there ends up being all these extra pixels all over it.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I-
And yeah, Micolash is
Right.
super pissed off that Rom's the one that got to embrace the wisdom of Cos.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, Rom is in the Chalice dungeon, so Rom is in 3 places. 4 places if you count Mikolash's head.
Oh,
Okay, what is
shame.
Rom? Lady who became a spider.
Mm-hmm.
Where is she? She's in a lake, in the Upper Cathedral ward, in the chalices, and rent-free in Mikolash's head. Why? Because she messed around with Orphan of Cos's third chord. Cos showed up. He could not grasp the form of Cos's attack, and became a spider.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
I mean,
So
makes perfect sense.
cool.
Yeah.
Wrong. We're going to explain the whole game
Where
by the
in our
end.
hearts?
Yes. You know.
What?
We're going to hopefully do the whole game by the end. I reckon we can just
Yeah.
explain everything. Let's go. We're making excellent time. Usually these individually go for several hours each.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No joke. Okay, thank you, Sophie. The next question is by I can't pronounce this. Siofra.
Ifra.
Shifra. Yes, thank you. Is Bloodborne set on a flat Earth?
These aren't why questions.
Why is
Okay.
Bloodborne set on a flat
Let's go. Okay, no. We'll make this one why Bloodborne's Earth. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What is it? It's the Earth that Bloodborne is set on. It is unclear if this is supposed to be our Earth or just another world. I think you sort of have to say it's another world because historically there is no Yharnam. There's no there's references to Lauren as a place that used to exist. And also at the end of the game, it just implies this is a cycle that continues forever. So maybe our world did happen at some point or is going to happen in the future. Now, it gets confusing because that is our moon as far as we can tell. So it might be Earth after a whole lot of cycles have passed. Okay.
Yeah.
Where is it? It's in space. The cosmology of the game is very weird because the moon, like the moon that orbits the Earth, is given all of this massive significance, but then also you can go and reach your mind into space and encounter an exploding star. So presumably, there's all of these stars and things out there, but as far as the planet is concerned, the moon is the important thing, not the sun. And also, apparently the nights can just go forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been
So
pointed
it's
out
an
in the
Alaska.
chat, Molotov cocktails exist in Bloodborne, which means the Soviet Union exists.
Yes.
And Ludwig says Spartans in it, so that means the Spartans
Yes.
existed. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think, Sophie, canonically, Bloodborne happens after we destroy our civilization and then restart.
Yeah. We restart, and
then...
all that's left is the Soviet Union and a DVD of 300. That's all that's left of us. And the thing is, in Bergenworth, there's globes of the world.
Yeah.
Which does imply it's round, whereas the Dark Souls world does seem to be flat. Because Dark Souls world is apparently, it's underneath, there's these trees holding it up.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Thank you, Sophie.
Now they've raised the question of, does Zack Snyder exist in the Bloodborne universe?
Yes.
Does he exist in the Armored Core universe? Because whenever anything cool happens, it goes into slow motion.
Maybe he secretly directed it.
Maybe.
I don't know. Possible.
Okay. So hang on, we've explained why ROM entered the world.
Thank you, Sophie. Um, okay. Oh my God. Sophie is asking.
Not me. I deliberately
About
didn't
herself.
look at these because I didn't want to know,
Yeah.
and Sin forgot they existed. And I had to ask her, like, remember the what was? And she's like, what? All right, yeah, those. Okay, of course I remember those.
I remember. Sophie's asking. Oh, and Sophie has a Pikachu avatar. Sophie's asking, why is Bloodborne?
Well, why do you? What? That's a good philosophical question. Um. Okay, so what? Why is Bloodborne?
Well, Bloodborne is because for Sophie and I to meet,
That's
I
true.
think.
That's true.
Yeah.
So emotional. But that's sort of true because like not every okay every major like relationship with anyone outside of the city I live in right now is through Souls
Mm-hmm.
fandom for me.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us aren't still talking about it. Like they're just people I met and we stayed friends.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
probably gives like a weird indication of what like the it's sort of like for people like us because we did meet through this and it's the primary thing we talk about on this. But
Mm.
we don't really like talk about this outside of the show. Like we're just
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you called me last night and we talked for like 45 minutes just about random shit. Like that's
Yeah.
yeah. Um
I
so
woke up and I'm like, hey, Sophie,
as
good
I'm like,
morning.
hey.
Is it 3 a.m. for you?
No, I'm scanning zines. They're here.
Oh.
So why is Bloodborne? Bloodborne exists because of a contractual arrangement with Sony. But I think like if we're getting into like why the parts that we care about exist,
Mm-hmm.
I talked a bit about this because I recorded something with Night of the Orchards about the development of Dark Souls 3, right? And we talked about this a bit. We talked
Yeah.
about Bloodborne a bit there, where it's like, as someone who's gone like into like old builds and all these old like trailers and stuff like documentation about the development cycle and stuff, most of the things that like really resonated with people about Bloodborne were things that they added very late. Um and by added, I don't mean that like out of the blue they produced something. I mean that like those things were always in the game somewhere and it's like through this developmental process that was very iterative where they sort of like they would add something and then they would keep refining what it was and moving it around until suddenly it would click. Most of the interesting stuff in the game comes from that. So like the prime example is Queen Yharnam.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the reason that Queen Yharnam, like that character, is in the game is because she starts off as a boss that's just called Thumerian Bride. And before that she's just called Dungeon People Bride before they had a name. And she's there because if you've seen the 1992 Dracula movie by Francis Ford Coppola, when Lucy is like becomes sort of enthralled by Dracula and she becomes Dracula's bride, she literally looks exactly like Queen Yharnam does now. So she's got it's the same dress, it's the same like the blood everywhere, and she's like in a dungeon. And she's in there because like they just made a bunch of stuff that was in Dracula and put it in the game. And she
Yeah.
doesn't become Queen Yharnam until like unbelievably late in development. To the point where like when you see her on the lake after ROM, the animations and things that she's playing are internally called ASDF, ASDF, ASDF.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, we have to fucking finish this thing. ASDF, ASDF just get it done. But like but also like she's the one of the most like resonant parts of the game because she kind of anchors the story in this sort of like weird ghost story that is also about simultaneous fear of and reliance on pregnancy. And if she's not there, like, that chunk of it doesn't really work. But she comes later on, and that's why, like, I think, like, people who are very into, like, theory and, like, lit crit and stuff really got a lot out of Bloodborne, because it feels like as they were making it, they were kind of critiquing at it as they were going. They were not as in critiquing thinking it's bad, but critiquing as in reading what they were doing and, oh, this is here. What if we focused on that? And then it's like, oh, that's interesting. What if we took it in this direction as it's going? But they don't. They're starting with, like, assets that already exist, which is why chunks of the game are very, very weird. And also, like, the concept of, like, the healing church. It strikes people as very odd that, like, the healing church in Bloodborne, when you encounter them, they're supposedly founded by a guy from Bergenworth, like, probably about 20 years ago. But they are also in this massive cathedral that looks like it took, like, was built centuries ago. It's like, what? And the answer is, like, yeah, in the early versions of the story, the healing church was a part of Yharnam. It was an ancient thing. It wasn't founded by someone from Bergenworth, but then it's like, as they've kind of iterated on these concepts, it struck them, and I think, again, this works way better than the original version, that the healing church was founded by an outsider, because it plays into the whole, like, Yharnam is really xenophobic and obsessed with its own racial purity, but you can also just, like, if you offer them something, they will let sort of charlatans and fakers in if they're getting something out of it. And then it also explains why, like, Yharnam then turns against it. So it's like it goes from being, like, sort of everyone there is creepy and vampiric and they have a weird church to, like, oh, these were people. It's like the monorail episode of The Simpsons. Like, these people were, like, someone played into their, like, their worst excesses of their xenophobia and their obsession with purity to kind of leverage them, and then that broke down and they turned against them violently, which doesn't work if it's always been there. So again, like, I think that's a much, much more interesting version than just, like, the town has a creepy church. So that's kind of why Bloodborne is. Hey, Eugenio's here. And yeah, that's so what Bloodborne is. It's a game for the PlayStation 4. Where Bloodborne is, there's, like, 3 copies of it under my desk. They're all slightly different because they have slightly different information on them. Why is Bloodborne? We just covered that. Okay, 4 in.
Excellent. Good job. And as you were talking, I was thinking about, like, Bloodborne's also interesting because science can get away with a lot if they promise something in return. So, Shiofra is asking, Shifra? Siofra.
See, okay, it's one of those things, it's like amygdala, where, like, I know the correct pronunciation, but for all I know, they say it differently in the world because no one says that out loud.
Yeah.
So, like, I know it's pronounced Shifra, but I don't know if in the game they are saying Shifra because no one says it out. We'll just say it's Shifra.
Shifra. Okay, Shifra. I'll remember. Shifra is asking, when will Lawrence wear wigs?
Wear wigs?
Wigs. Sophie, Shifra just solved something for us. You know, there's still a great debate about whether or not Lawrence is the bloodletting beast. Great debate. But
it is a great. I wish it wasn't. You know, I wrote, like, a really long dot point thing on Reddit that was like, okay, this is the last time I'm bringing it up. This is why, if you don't agree, fine, but stop fucking tagging me. Anyway, continue.
Oh, so one of the points that you bring up is that, you know, the skull on the altar is Lawrence's skull.
Yeah.
And you, like, because of the structure of the skull, the gash, and all that stuff, and
because it looks the same.
Bloodletting, allegedly. But what if
What if
the skull on the altar is just like a head, like
It's
what
like,
do you call it? A
oh,
mannequin head,
yeah, okay.
where he like uses for his wigs.
Because Lawrence is known to wear wigs.
Oh,
Sin, I believe you've just cracked something important, because if you look at a lot of the boss models of Bloodborne in a model viewer, they're all
they're
bald.
bald.
They're bald.
Yeah.
The Healing Church actually began in an attempt to cure baldness.
Oh my god.
And it was too successful.
Oh. Because then people started growing hair on their heads, and then on their faces, on their arms, everywhere. They're not actually. That's why Jura is like they're not beasts. They're just like they just have hair.
Yeah.
It's a vibe.
Yeah. What they need
Like,
to do then
sometimes
is they need to start selling shampoo. Special beast shampoo.
Oh
That's
my
why
God.
Sage's hair is so important.
Oh my god.
I know.
Sophie, it's
Yeah.
been cracked.
I know.
But that means you are wrong.
That's true.
It's not
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
so we've
thank you.
solved what is this segment? What is ROM? What is the world? What is Bloodborne? And what is Lawrence's wig?
What is Clark's voice? Thank you, Sophie.
Ingrid. So she's gone to sleep on my microphone, like on my headset thing, and it's just okay. I can sit up properly.
This could be a perfect segue into a sponsor.
It could. Did you know that 9 out of 10 Thumerians experience hair loss by their 2000th birthday?
Should we be like, and the way to, cure it, go to Ko-fi Memphis, I can't speak.
What was
Sophie,
that, Sin?
Ko-fi.com/
But Sin, what if I'm not bald? Because I'm not.
You're very unbold.
I'm very unbald. I've had to have a lot of laser. But this is all real on my head. So, people have accused me of wearing a wig, and I'm like, if it was, I wouldn't have to fucking dye it. Anyway, you mentioned coffee.com/Mephistophea. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, all the information we're currently getting, the good information, is
the
from...
information that's actually relevant to the game.
Yeah, we're getting it from Bloodborne-wiki.com, which is the one true wiki and is an amazing source for all Bloodborne-related content. It's run by Mav, who, with the help of other people, keeps it accurate and awesome and clean and ad-free. So every return to Yharnam, we do this little thing where we try to help her fund the wiki.
Sin, did you say ad-free?
Yeah. Yes.
But Sin, how do they afford to pay for the hosting if the site is ad-free? There's a lot of information on it.
Well, every year, Sophie does a return to Yharnam to help raise money for the wiki.
Yes.
And if somebody has like a couple of dollars, 5, 10, whatever, you can use the ko-fi.com/Mephistophea.
But Sin, sometimes I'm tricked into subscribing to payments. Is this subscription based, or can I just donate once?
You can donate just once.
Wow, thank you, Sin. What's our next one?
Let me know. So Dr. Arahnak says, what phobias does ROM have?
This is the second ROM phobia question.
Wow. Yeah, ROM's pretty popular.
I think ROM's phobia is the red moon.
Checks out.
It's essentially all she's got to do.
Oh my god, Sophie, I just had a vision.
She just spends her life in the lake thinking, like, just don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up, and then the hunter shows up, and it's like, this is the one thing we didn't want to happen.
Oh my god. Sophie,
how am I going to explain this to Willem?
Sophie, do you remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, there would be like these shows where it's like this lady is scared to death of jars.
Yeah.
And she's gonna tell us about her phobia. And as the lady's talking, they just bring out jars on stage,
Yeah,
and she's
yeah.
like freaking out and runs away.
Yeah, Fear Factor, I believe, was the main one.
I feel like there was like so many of them.
Yeah.
What if ROM was one of those shows and they're like, well, ROM, we have a surprise for you. The Red Moon! And then like the Red Moon appears and like the world goes to hell.
Okay, Rob's phobia if she were on Fear Factor. Okay, number 7.
Stoner says, since I'm married to ROM, she's afraid of doing her fair share of the cleaning.
This is
I'm
the
always
third Rom question.
It's more of a comment. Okay. Schifra has another question. What is a witch in Bloodborne?
Are we skipping the Graham one?
But it's not a question. Graham was just saying they're married to Rom and they do all the dishes.
I thought it was leading into, like, I do all the dishes and Rom does the vacuuming. You could say she's Rom the Vacuuming Spider.
That's amazing. No,
Yeah.
I didn't say that, but I like that. Yeah.
The good,
Did you just call Rom a Roomba?
I think the Roomba of Bloodborne would be the labyrinth moles, because they, like, suck you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also. Okay. Now, Sophie, Schifra is asking, what is a witch in Bloodborne?
Okay, good question.
Good question.
Well, it is a good question. What do you think a witch is, if you're so smart?
No, I was saying it is a good question, so just with the attitude. What do you think? Let's see. I think a witch is a Thumerian lady who, like, grows plants and does potions. And grinds up bones.
Okay.
What do you call that? Like a healer,
A
you
herbalist.
know? Yeah, a herbalist.
Okay.
There we go. That's what I think a
Do you
witch
think
is
the
in
Thumerians
Bloodborne.
had herbalists?
Yeah.
What herbs? Like they live
In
underground.
Thumeru?
They
Well,
live underground.
yeah, they have the flowers underground.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
little.
There's the
They have
fluorescent
the giant
flowers.
walking flower. No,
Yeah.
the giant walking flower. Girl, it's like that's So like the witches would be like, "Come here, flower." Boom. Some tea. Yeah.
So every day they've got to go out and just like beat up a whole lot of centipedes.
Yeah. Herbalist, kickboxer.
Okay, so the witches are like, there's the Witch of Hemwick, obviously.
Yeah.
And they are descended from, like, if you look at the chalices where it all comes from. There's the Right Keepers there. The witches that look like they're... We did an episode on them. We did a What, Where, Why on them. Where they look like they are like a dome. They're like this sort of like R2-D2
The
old
ones
lady.
with the legs?
Yeah, but then what they actually are is they're folded in half.
Yeah.
And they can stand up and they're actually like 7 feet tall.
Oh,
But they
it's
just
so
fold.
terrifying.
They're like a contortionist, and they just fold themselves in half. And then if you piss them off, like you just go like that. So like the Witch of Hemwick's clearly like somehow related to that, because you see like the interesting thing about Hemwick, and this is why my old channel was bad, and you're wrong if you liked it. Is that like Hemwick's interesting because like it's that and Canehurst are the two like matriarchal places in the game, and they're clearly connected. And so is Thumeru. Like when you go into Hemwick, like it's like the men are outside like trying to shoot you as you come in, but then like it's all women. Like it's the only, apart from Yharnam, which reuses the assets, which is like just reusing random shit, but like Hemwick's clearly being portrayed as like a place that women are in charge of, as opposed to Yharnam.
Yeah.
And that's also like the Thumerian thing.
Yeah.
Um, are the witches directly from the labyrinth though? No. The Witch of Hemwick is like Hemwick's a place that continues the like the traditions of Thumeru. So like, even though it's on the surface and it's like a village, it's also a village that's like obsessed with collecting and grinding up bones, and it's a village that's like doing these weird rituals where they're like burning things on like a big pie. I know Yharnam does that as well, but this is like there's a real ritual feel to it with them all sort of dancing around like this big burning effigy. Um, like they that statue that they're dancing around, like it's holding like a shovel that you use with fire. This is
Hmm.
real obsession with like burning things. That's like the chalices sort of talk about that with like the keeper of the old lords being incinerated and like the watchdog of the old lords. Like in this, um, you find like there's like fires and things with like the fires in the fires in the dungeon are like they have like animal corpses on them that are keeping them going. And then like at the end of that place, it's these two witches who are like again like they're collecting body parts, they're doing like weird necromantic shit that's very very sort of Thumerian, and like that's not what's really going on in Yharnam. But then what happens is over the course of like recent history and the game itself, like it sort of tilts toward that because it's like the longer the healing church sort of like bash their head against this eldritch mystery, the more that they start abandoning their like pretense of rationality and just start giving in to like what if we just did a big human sacrifice. Yeah.
Sophie? So I was trying to look for the video you were talking about the witches that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like you said, a lot of them are on Patreon, so I don't know if that's the one because there's like more than one.
Well, I can.
So I'm gonna paste. Is that I found two.
Sin, you don't need to
Um,
look because we've got the wonderful resource that is Bloodborne Wiki. Okay.
but it's not gonna be on there if it's unlisted on Patreon.
No, I mean we can look at the different witches and things on Bloodborne Wiki.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
You're so cute. Yes. Okay.
Here we go. These ladies.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yes. And so they're actually like they're as tall as the other Fumarians. Actually, I think they might be slightly taller, and they're just folded in half, and you don't see it. But sometimes they will stand up. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming she does somewhere. But here we go. There we go. So this has got to be our 2024 body goals.
Please. Amazing.
Okay. So what's our next
Oh,
one?
so somebody wait, Sophie, important. Um, a trader who is a Slav just
Mhm.
said, "Я вас люблю, ребята," meaning I love you girls very much. Oh, oh, that's very cute.
Mm.
Спасибо, трейдер. Say thank you in Russian, Sophie.
Tovarish.
She just needs a good chiropractor. Yeah.
No, but I don't think that's like it's the opposite. It's like she must have like incredible muscles to hold that posture.
Yeah, she's
Yeah, like
like
she can
maybe
stand up
she's
when she wants
flexing.
to. It's like planking. That's the Fumarian equivalent of
Yeah,
planking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Mm.
Maybe when we encountered them, they were doing like their exercise routine.
Yeah, and you would. Oh. All we do is bother people in this game.
We're the worst.
Awful. Just leave them alone.
I agree.
You know, the whole game is like, if you just left that spider alone, none of this would have happened.
I know. Just go home. Willem's like, go home. And you're like, you want me to go kill Rom in the lake? No, go home. Okay, I'll kill Rom.
Don't go in there. Go in there. All right.
Oh, God.
You know, I have a little spider that's living on the porch now that I've become protective of.
Good. Sophie, you're the only thing standing between, like, the red moon as you're protecting the spider.
It's a little tiny brown spider. It's living in a curled up leaf on one of my sage bushes.
Okay.
And every so often opening, how you doing, little guy?
That's so cute, though. Yeah, Sophie now is the princess of butterflies, birds, and spiders.
Yeah, and cats.
And cats. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Sophie, Lemon Bread says, "Я тоже вас люблю, so I love you as well." And then Scholar of Corlin says, "Спасибо, lol." Aw. Thank you. Обожаю пересматривать www, когда рисую. Oh, okay. So Lemon Bread likes to watch What, Where, Why when they draw. Oh. This is a Russian
Soda
stream
Zero
now.
has
This is
asked
a
when we're
Flux
doing
stream
a
now.
Reborn, what, where, why.
Okay, so for Reborn, we actually have to address that. We did do the first episode of season 2 of Reborn. We did a watch along. Unfortunately, that's when it's like around the same time when Sophie has a lot of thing going on, like your director thing happening, and then I have my new job happening. So it's like everything's just a little crazy. But it is happening. We did the first episode, so it's just
I've
like
already
30
forgotten
more
it.
to go. No, but there was nothing much. It's like some guy shows up.
None
and
of them are
trying to hurt
anything.
and but it's fine. What we do know
It's
is
like
that
ChatGPT wrote a Battle Shonen. Like, I just whatever.
Battle Shonen, Sophie. It's Reborn.
Okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to the stream.
Hi. Apologies to anyone who really likes.
We love Reborn. Why do you need to apologize? We unironically love Reborn.
I'm not sure. I think I do now.
There you go.
I
Thank
like
you.
it because we watched it at a point in our relationship when we were first really bonding. So it has. No, because that was like a moment when I realized that like we were taking this to another level. Because you said to me like, "Do you want to talk about something other than Dark Souls?" And I said, "All right." And then you said, "We're gonna watch this anime called Katekyo Hitman Reborn," and then you started getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning to make sure we could watch it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta do that
With a
again.
Couple that watches Reborn together stay.
And look, it's been like 35,000 years.
It has,
and
yeah.
we're still together.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
Question 9. Question 8. We're on question 8.
Question 8. Okay. Let
Okay.
me go to. Okay. Oh, Abyss 1.
Ooh.
Our good friend Abyss
good
1,
friend
who
Abyss
does all
1.
sorts of cool stuff on the computers
Yeah.
and the
yeah.
hacking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could Sophie talk about early progression in Bloodborne or some speculations about Micolash and the path to the Nightmare Frontier used to be in Hemwick, Broken Bridge? There's a
Okay.
bunch of weird early stuff to talk about in Bloodborne.
Okay, so we'll talk about the Hemwick thing. So I'll just go back to the wiki. So we'll start with the old Micolash thing. So this is the old this is Micolash's dialogue that's all in the game. So we use a color coding system for this. If it's that yellowy gold color, it means that it was recorded and it has subtitles, but they didn't put it in the game.
Okay.
If it's white, that means it's what you get in the game. And if it's purple, it means that it was recorded, but we don't have subtitles for it, so that's us just listening to it and writing it down.
Okay.
So this is Micolash's dialogue. So you'll notice that he is saying things that don't imply it's a boss fight. So he says, like, please somebody look into my eyes. I can't sleep. I sit here so very quietly in a sleepless sleep. And then he starts going, cause... Now, this is... The problem is, like, this is just written down, but I can confirm, like, when he's saying, cause or some say cosm, rom, the downside up fool, the great lake clouded by grime. I need more eyes to line the wrinkles of my brain. What he's doing up until that point is he's talking quite calmly. So he's like, somebody, anybody look into my eyes, my sweet dreams. And then he starts... It's very similar to what he's saying in the boss fight, like, let's sit about and speak feverishly. And then what happens is when it gets to chatting into the wee hours, he suddenly screams, of my wonderful nightmare! And starts screaming. And that's kind of when he becomes, like, the Micolash that we know in the game. But you can see prior to that, there's actually quite a bit of, like, semi-not crazy Micolash. I've compared it a lot to Big Hat Logan, because that's sort of the closest thing I can come up with, where when you first meet Big Hat Logan, he's like, hey, would you help me get access to Seath's, like, library? And then when he gets access to it, he slowly goes mad until he tries to kill you. You also see here is Micolash going, like, we were friends, nothing to be ashamed of, how could you hurt me? Like, as if he's not hostile and you're hitting him. So this is all from a version of the game where Micolash was, like I was saying, he was like a Logan-style NPC. He's someone you would meet, and he wasn't actually in the nightmare yet. And this is, like, a version where, like, it was basically the same plot, but when you got to Yharnam, instead of there being the mummified Micolash, because Micolash isn't mummified yet, there was, depending on the version you were playing, it was either one of the big skull rocks from the Nightmare Frontier. Like when you go, not Nightmare of Mensis. You know, when you're in the Nightmare of Mensis and there's the, like, the bridge where the brain is probably the best example. There's all of these, like, rocks made out of skulls that are sort of growing out of the ground. It was one of those. And in other versions, it was a statue of Ebrietas holding Rom.
Oh yeah,
which I showed off in the last stream that was 5 hours long.
Yeah.
I don't ask for a date stamp. Don't ask for a timestamp. I cannot remember. So anyway, that's like one of those things. They're not Micolash. So let's grab this. For people who weren't on the last time we looked at this. This is an in-development map of the game. Like, this is something that From Software had. Like, so this is just, like, from their own archives and files and things. And it was shown off. That's literally an A4 piece of paper, to give you a rough idea of how far we've had to zoom this goddamn thing in. This is an A4 piece of paper that was shown off at an exhibition called the Victoria... It was called Design Play Interrupt, I think. Design Play Disrupt. And I had said that these photographs were all taken by Vodka Folly and Astral Lace. I got that wrong. It was taken by someone else who knows Vodka Folly and Astral Lace. And they actually contacted me, and they said they're credited on the page. I don't actually know where their name is on the page, so I've forgotten, and I'm sorry. But
their name is Alec.
Yeah, basically Vodka Folly and Astral Lace sent me the files, so I assumed they had taken them, but it was it Alec?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Alec actually took these photographs, so massive shout out to Alec, and I'm sorry I didn't credit you before. So this is all the stuff from the exhibition, and that included this map, this in-development map of the game. That's like, it's almost what we have now, but not quite, and it's got it's got these little things, like these little notes, these like development notes that are written in they're written in like handwriting, like on it. So I'll show you. Here's this one. So you can see like it's got these labels on it, and then it has these like notes in like red and green pen. So what we want to look at specifically is that there. That's Witch's Abode. You can see there is an extra little bit added to the end of Witch's Abode, which has been added in pen. Like someone has drawn an extra room on. And that room, we got this translated. That room it says maniac like people are wandering there, and then it's like I don't know what if you're receiving lousy. You'll go. I don't know what that means. I think it's just because the handwriting is not particularly legible because it's quite like I said, it's literally an A4 page photograph from across the room. But basically, you'll notice that there is a red arrow pointing to a thing called Trap Road. So Trap Road is the old name of the Nightmare of... That's not the old name, it's still technically the name. It's the name they use for Nightmare of Mensis. Because Trap Road is basically like... it's just a name that like they use in Japanese game vernacular, I guess, to just refer to obstacle courses. So, like, there's levels in Mario like that are called like Bowser's Trap Road and stuff. Like that's just their Japanese name. It just means like an obstacle course, difficult level, and you can see that the way that you get to Trap Road, right? In the game that we have now, like Trap Road would be somewhere over here. Cause that's Yahuggle. You can see it's actually in pieces. I think they hadn't properly connected it or something. I don't think it was ever supposed to be like a weird interdimensional thing. I think it's just not lined up yet. Basically, the way that you get to Trap Road now is you go to Yahuggle, which warps you to the lecture hall, which then warps you to Trap Road. Here you go to Trap Road from this room at the back of Hemwick. And that's like this additional extra. I think that is currently the room where you find the Carol Rune workshop tool. Although it's possibly not, but basically if you look at where that is, it would sort of be the back, like the back area of Witch's Abode. Actually, we can see that. Fuck it, let's go. We didn't throw this off properly last time. Free cam. I think it's... There we go. That's the back of Witch's Abode. You can see like there's a door. Like, or there's like something that's supposed to be a door there. Like Witch's Abode is a really, really weird structure. Because you can see from the outside it's absolutely massive. Like it's a huge, huge building. You go in and you just sort of like go down some stairs and it's over. But from the, it's like Yusefka's clinic is the same. Like from the outside, it is this huge structure, like a mansion. And then in game, it's like a room, some stairs, and then another room. So basically, there was something going on with Witch's Abode that would take you to the Nightmare Frontier. One of the theories is that it's to do with Witch's Abode having a back sort of balcony. That there would be something where like you... I think a lot of it comes from Maniac, like people wondering. I think someone else translated that as like a madman will push you. And there was this theory that like Micolash was going to be in Witch's Abode and he would leap from there into the water and that would teleport you to Trap Road or something like that. This is like, I mean, we've talked about like old versions of the game and everything. Until pretty late in the dev cycle, you were going to start the game in Hemwick. That's why if you look at like if you look at early trailers of the game, they're all set in Hemwick. Like Hemwick's the big area they're focusing on, and you can also see it's Hemwick during the day. Because the old structure was like you'd start the game in Hemwick during the daytime, and then during the nighttime, you would like something would happen and you'd end up going to Yharnam from Hemwick. That's also presumably why Hemwick has like got a crossing for a carriage and everything, because it's meant to be like, again, going back to them taking stuff from like old vampire movies and stuff. What Hemwick is in this version, it's before it becomes the weird matriarchal place. Hemwick is a place where like it's like, oh, we're almost at the castle, and then like the carriage stops at the weird village, and like the protagonist walks into the bar and no one knows him, and they're like, oh, get out of here and stuff like that, and like outsiders won't survive and things like that, doing that sort of thing. That's what Hemwick's kind of initially conceived of as. So you would start in Hemwick and you'd go through all this junk, and then it's like they want it to end in Hemwick again. So like you go through there, do all that junk, and then you go back to Hemwick, and then Hemwick would actually be the portal into the final end of the Trap Road area. So that's where it all comes from. My understanding, and I could be wrong here, is that there's actually data for Micolash in Hemwick. There's like, I don't know exactly, but there's apparently data for Micolash in Hemwick. And that led to the whole like, oh, did you chase Micolash back to Hemwick and then he goes to Trap Road, blah blah blah. The chasing of Micolash seems to have been like kind of like a theme at one point, and that's why he's running when he meets you. Because it was sort of supposed to be like, you meet Micolash, he goes mad, he runs off, and then when you encounter him, he's the boss he is now, and you're just still chasing him. Anyway. That went on for a very long time.
Thank you, Sophie.
Micolash jumping in a lake, ? Oh, because the thing is, like, it says Madman, and I think Micolash is called Madman a couple of times, but a lot of characters are called Madman.
Okay.
I think Micolash... Sorry, just moving. I think Micolash is called, like, the Lost Apostle at one point as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's because it's like they start with sort of character archetypes, and they just kind of squidge them around till they came up with what they have now.
Okay. Thank you, Sophie. Okay. Why is Bloodborne by Silverwing? We already did that.
Well, I'll put why is Bloodborne, and then I'll put a little asterisk next to the show that we... That counts, so we've done 9 now.
And Silverwing was also wondering about the upside down Bergenworth.
Oh, okay, well the thing is, Lance actually put out a video. Literally the day after we did ours.
Oh.
I'm not saying that he stole it from us. I'm not saying that he watched us and then he spent all night making that and just pretended he'd been working on it for ages. I'm not actually suggesting, just saying it's really, really interesting how that lines up.
During return to Yharnam.
Yeah. It's a little sus that like Lance McDonald's looking at us and thinking, I need some of those views.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, Lance has made a video about it. It's covering this thing called the Underground Library. So, to just go... I actually haven't properly watched it yet, because I've been busy being a pillar of the local community at zine fairs. Upside Down Bergenworth, we covered it a little bit. Basically, there's Bergenworth. There's references in the game's code to a place called Upside Down Bergenworth. We'll do this at what, where, why. Hang on. Okay. We're going off topic. Right. What is Upside Down Bergenworth? Upside Down Bergenworth is... There's a bunch of, like, notes in the game files that refer to a place called Upside Down Bergenworth. This includes, like, there's lamps for Upside Down Bergenworth. ROM is called, like, the boss of Upside Down Bergenworth at one point. Micolash calls ROM Upside Down a few times like that, so there was this question of, like, what the fuck is this Upside Down Bergenworth thing? That's all it is, right? And also, because of basically the way that the Bloodborne was sort of, the assets were culled, is that they didn't cull, like, everything that wasn't used in the game. Like, certain things sort of survived, because the way that basically they delete assets they don't need is it's just automated. So it just, like, there's just a thing, it loops through the assets and goes, this isn't used, delete it. And that's why, like, you know, we talked a little bit about Witch's Abode and a bit about Sefka's Clinic. Like, these are huge places. Clearly, at some point, they did have extra floors. Like, we know for a fact that Sefka's Clinic had extra floors at one point because we have the collision maps for them. So basically deleted them. It didn't delete everything. And some of the things that survived the culling process are Bergenworth assets that literally are upside down.
Okay.
So they're like stairs and like platforms and things that are with the other Bergenworth assets, but they're flipped 180 degrees.
Okay.
And again, if you look at the way that Bergenworth sort of works, like, the slime scholar enemies, they can stick to the ceiling and they can be on the ground. So it's like, oh, this actually would work upside down as well. I don't know if it was ever finished. I don't know if we'll ever see it. It's possibly just gone for good, but like we're reasonably sure that there was an upside down version of Bergenworth. Where was upside down Bergenworth is another question. We don't know. It could have been physically underneath Bergenworth. It could have been where that trapdoor led. There's a theory that it was a nightmare thing, like the Nightmare Lecture Hall. So you went through Bergenworth and then you sort of like, there's a theory it had something to do with the telescope, because apparently the telescope has some associated events and cutscenes that don't do anything. So it's a theory that like you did something to the telescope and then that like you went into a reverse version of Bergenworth that was like the nightmare version and it was upside down, something like that. We don't know. Why was it there? I think because Bergenworth's the point at which the game does its like twist thing from being like gothic horror to being weird fiction, and that was probably to just emphasize like actually the world is sort of turning upside down right now. So there we go.
Thank you, Sophie. Let me go back to the questions.
My second cat is here.
Oh.
The feral
Unseemingly
one.
Gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
He's so cute. Is asking. Oh, somebody says, hello, YouTube very rudely didn't notify me of the stream. Yeah, you gotta. I think what you have to do is like. Here's why YouTube is killing
the channel.
Oh, but legit, you have to like subscribe, but that's not enough. You have to go to the bell and then you have to select notifications, and then it might notify you.
Sin, it sounds like you're trying to get people to subscribe and like you, but what if there was a more deserving website? And that website was called Bloodborne Wiki.
It's called Bloodborne
Wiki.
Yes.
Sin, why should people support Bloodborne Wiki?
For the wigs. No. Bloodborne Wiki is a great source of all Bloodborne related material and information, including content available in the game, content that was cut from the game, content that was that didn't make it to the game, content that the developers thought about astro projected into the space is still available on the Bloodborne Wiki. And it's run by Math, as well as certain people helping her. And yeah, it's just an amazing resource for everything Bloodborne related, but it doesn't run those annoying ads with like, videos popping up and just things all over the place and bright colors and this and that. So, yeah, if you'd like to help out, with the, I guess I just say like, so every year Sophie does this thing during Return to Yharnam where she helps fund the wiki, because like we said, it doesn't run that. So
yeah,
it costs money because there's a lot of like animations and like a lot of graphics on there.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to help, you can go to coffee.com/ I can't pronounce Mev's full name today, Sophie.
It's Mephistopheia.
Mephistopheia, yes.
Yeah, it's Mephistopheles, but she made her like own feminine sort of version of it, so it's Mephistopheia, even though Mephistopheles is a girl indeed.
Yeah.
We just call her Mev.
So yeah. So you can go to coffee.com/ Mephistopheia if you have like a couple of dollars or $5 or $10 to like donate to keeping the basically wiki going.
I'm scrolling through some like unused content stuff now. Give a rough idea of like the sort of things that are up there. So yeah, like the wiki, like I'm not going to show them off, maybe I will later, but it literally has like unused cutscenes hosted here. When you think about the sheer amount of like graphics and video and audio and everything that is on this site, it does actually cost a reasonable amount to keep it afloat. So
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Sophie. So now, let me go back to the questions. Unseemingly Gentleman is asking, Could you please do a what, where, why on the Cathedral Plaza?
Okay.
The place with the two giants, the gravestones, and the momentum. The monument. It's always seemed like a strange spot to me.
Okay, let's go
Yes.
find it. I think it has an official name. Okay, let's bring up. All right. So, what is Cathedral Plaza? Cathedral Plaza is it is what it says. It is a cathedral plaza. In the front of the Grand Cathedral, there is a big circular plaza. There is a big statue in the middle of it of a weird old man. And yeah, it's as they suggest, there are two giants patrolling it. And it's full of graves and it's full of dead healing church people. So where is it? It is past the aptly titled Plaza Gate. It's a brisk walk from Erden Chapel. Location, location, location. It's also it's a brisk walk to Erden Chapel. It's a little bit more of a walk if you want to go to Forbidden Woods. And I've got the map up here, and if we look at it, there's quite a few items. I think they're all man knowledge. Yeah, they look to be. They're all madman's knowledge. There's all these dead healing church people around there. And this is something that's like it's interestingly sort of in the game, but you don't ever see them actually fight. But basically, the church and the Yharnamites are fighting each other. This is something that's like, because you don't ever really see it happening, it's sort of easy to miss. But the reason there's all these dead healing church people around here is that if you go into the, not in this map, it's in the alleyway. Here we go. There's this alleyway here where you meet Ariana and the narrow-minded man. There's like dead healing church people all over the place, and there's Yharnamites waiting to ambush here. So what's happening is like the Yharnamites in Cathedral Ward are turning against the healing church and they're killing them, and that is why. All these dead healing church people out here, and there's the giants, because it's like we have to guard this place somehow because the people in this little alleyway, which involves like there's like snipers, there's like the partially transformed beast people, there's hunting dogs, there's like a bunch of the poison knives are on a church corpse, but basically like the people are rising up against the healing church. Yharnamites rise up, and this is sort of like there appears to have been a conflict here. You can actually see it if we go into early trailers and recent retail comparison. So it looks like early versions of the game were a bit more direct about this, and it just like, I don't know if it was the AI fucking up or something like that, but it didn't really work. You can see here that there's Yharnamites in that cathedral area. There aren't any more. They actually kind of do get it working in the DLC, because if you go there in the DLC, take this off now.
Yes.
If you go there in the DLC, that's where the big old hunter with the boom hammer is killing all of the beasts. And they still haven't figured out how to like make the AI do that without going weird. So the way that it functions is like all of those old hunters in the plaza are facing like a wall to start with. And then as you approach, it just triggers them to walk away from the wall and then notice there's enemies there. It's a really weird way of getting around it. And you get the impression that like they were trying to come up with ways to get them to fight, and it just wasn't working, and they fell back on just like having dead healing church people everywhere. But they're clearly picturing some sort of like confrontation. What have you?
Yeah.
No, it'll be in project. Please hang on. I'll show you what I mean.
Hi, Rafi. Welcome.
Hello.
Oathbringer, Rachel, Nakafolk,
Hey.
Eva,
The problem is
Daniel,
every time I click
Mem-
away,
Metal.
I lose my chat window. So that's why I'm not.
Yeah.
So you can see here, like, the Yharnamites are attacking the Grand Cathedral. And talking about the way that, like, Bloodborne is overtly referencing, like, old movies a lot. This is very clearly modelled on the end of Frankenstein, where the villagers all chase Frankenstein and his monster, Frankenstein, into a windmill and burn it down. Yeah, so that's kind of like what... That ends up not working, so they just sort of get around it by having, like... There's a bunch of dead Healing Church people there. And there's a bunch of dead Healing Church people... There's like a bunch of dead Healing Church people there, a bunch of dead Healing Church people there, and also a bunch of, like, really aggressive Yharnamites waiting to ambush you. So that's kind of what it's doing.
And I think since we know there's going to be a remake before 2030,
Well, you
they're probably
predicted
going
that.
to include... Yeah, I predicted that.
Yeah.
So it's a fact. We're probably going to see all this stuff implemented in the remake.
Ooh, I think that even that's, you know, do you think a remake would actually, like, seriously alter that, or do you think it'd be more like Demon's Souls?
No, it would be like they will take all the things they weren't able to do and they'll actually do them on the PlayStation 8.
I feel like that's what Elden Ring is. I feel like every time Froms can't do something, they just do it in the next game. It's like,
what did Elden Ring do that was so great?
Guy on a horse with one leg. That was supposed to be in Bloodborne.
No, but I'm talking about actual good things, like, you know, the sky and the like the things with the sky and the red moon and people chasing the Healing Church with torches, like all the stuff that we talk about that would have been super
cool.
cool.
The Healing Church should have been in Elden Ring.
No, I'm just.
You know, Elden Ring did the upside down Bergenworth thing in the Karian study hall.
Yeah, it's true. They did.
Yeah.
Was it good? I didn't go through it, so I just. Was it good?
It was one of the better parts. I dug it.
Okay, because it was a Bloodborne reference.
Yeah.
So Elden Ring didn't really do anything good.
Well, no, it got something to
work.
Sophie
can't edit this. Sophie can't keep me silent, because normally when Sophie's been editing all the recent podcasts, and she's been.
Yes, and thank you.
But to actually say something positive about Elden Ring, I am looking forward to the DLC because it looks kind of creepy. So I think it might be good.
Good.
Thank you.
Screenplay die rot. I can read you. I can't hear you.
Yeah, we can read you. Oh my god, are you like astral projecting? Are you psychically trying to connect with us?
What's the next What, Where, Why, Sin? Oh no, we didn't do Why Is There a Cathedral Plaza?
Oh yeah, why?
Why is there a Cathedral Plaza? So we talked a little bit about how they changed the story of, like, what the Healing Church was over time.
Okay. So,
like, in early versions, like, it would have been like, okay, there's an ancient creepy church. The vibe... I say it's a vibe, like, it's the only explanation that really makes sense, is, like, that cathedral was always there. Like, it was there when the Healing Church showed up. And, like, it's a really old building, and they probably just, like, kicked out whoever was in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you first find the version in the Hunter's Nightmare, and it's got, like, the beds in the front of it, that's really overtly referenced from, like, hospitals that would be set up in churches. During, like plagues and during wartime and things, that set up temporary hospitals in churches. So the impression that like I sort of get from that is like they temporarily set it up in because Yharnam probably had like a blood religion to begin with, and they've sort of hijacked it. Yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
Thank you, Sophie. Spectre Kale is asking. Well, yeah, go ahead.
No, we're on 11. This is the 11th. Why?
Oh, okay. Spectre Kale is asking, how come we can get health back through rally, but the other hunters can't?
What other hunt?
I guess
like
the
bosses and stuff.
non-player characters.
I don't know.
Because they weren't blessed by a saint.
Is that your Saint Hubert?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kirk
Novak
points out it's because we're special. It's because we're special.
It's because we're special.
Okay, you know what? The other hunters can't do it, but also the other hunters have unlimited blood vials and unlimited quicksilver bullets, so fuck them.
Thank you, Sophie.
Like, it's fair. What is Rally? A pretty good idea for a mechanic that keeps you active and discourages playing defensively. Where is Rally? It's in us. It's in our hearts. It's in our hearts.
Yeah.
And when we need to, like, you know, make ourselves stronger, we turn to the Rally.
Yeah.
Fight back. It's like Reborn. You fight back.
Like Reborn!
Yes, it's exactly like Reborn.
Dying will bullet!
Yes, it's.
What are echoes in English, Sophie? What are echoes in English?
Echoes. That's what they are in
English.
Like, that's the name.
No. What are they originally called?
Originally called Chino Ishii.
Which is?
The dying will of the blood.
The dying will of the blood? Reborn has the dying will bullet?
Yep.
DWB?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that what you call it in the fandom? And why is Rally? It's there because Miyazaki doesn't like shields.
Thank you. Thank you, Miyazaki, for making your one good game. I appreciate that. Now,
that's not fair. He also made Armored Core for answer.
You know what? Oh no, he didn't make Armored Core 6 though, did he?
No. That was...
So yeah, one good game.
No, but that was Yamamura who worked on Bloodborne.
Thank you, Yamamura. Yeah. So From Software made 2 good games, Bloodborne and Armored Core 6. You know, that's not bad.
Someone is saying FromSoft now?
What do you mean?
No cookie and cream support?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, 3 good games.
We need to... Cookie and cream is legitimately, like, harder than Dark Souls.
We need to co-op it. We've been planning to. That and the bomb game.
Keep talking, nobody explodes, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Alhazred keeps saying, like, you guys should play it. And it's like, yes, we will.
Yeah. It's
maybe that's what the next...
Maybe just be a little more patient. Because you've only been asking us for 5 years.
Yes, Alhazred, please. Don't be unreasonable. Yeah. By the way, Alhazred is also super cool and a streamer. So if you go to twitch.tv Alhazred's Gaming Goo, you'll see his streams. They're very good.
Nokofolk is also complaining about 3D Game Heroes Erasure. 3D Game Heroes is like a Zelda style game where you play as like a little cube person. And it's kind of like the gummy ship in Kingdom Hearts, and you can like put the little pixels where you want them to be.
Very cool.
Rob have made a lot of good games.
Yeah. What's the name of the Armored Core game but without the mechs?
What was that?
Armored Core. It's Armored Core, but there's no mechs.
Core?
It's the popular one. Armored Core has mechs, okay?
Yeah,
but before that they made a game, but it didn't have mechs. But it was like Armored Core. But instead of having a mech, you had a sword.
Oh, Frame Gride.
Oh
no,
like the one. It's like the popular one. Oh my god! No, like I'm the Armored Core without mechs, and you have a sword.
Kingsfield.
Yes, Kingsfield. Yes. Okay, that's another good one. Thank you, Sophie.
What's the next one? Why?
Okay, so um, Acer Aesthetics is
Mm-hmm.
asking, what were why water of Bloodborne?
Water.
Water.
All the water, or like the salt water, fresh water?
Well, you know what? Speaking of water, one thing I thought was weird in Yharnam is that
One
when you
thing.
look
There was
at
one thing in Yharnam. You were like, hang on.
so if you look at wells,
Something's not
right?
right here.
If you look at wells, they're
Yes.
all decorative wells. Like you look down, because I look down to see like if there's like a hole. There's no hole. It's just a well on top of the ground.
Yeah.
Like what's up with that? Like there's
They
no.
ran out of. This is not a joke. I do know someone who like did a whole lot of research into Victorian plumbing so that their Bloodborne fanfic was more accurate.
Okay. Eh?
Okay. Um, do
Okay.
people know about when I did my well thing? This is something I did. It was like after I sort of quit my old channel, but before I met you. I went and I just went to every well in Bloodborne and left the message "All's well ahead," and then I just checked which well got the most thumbs, which got the most fine, and which got the most foul.
And
And the most foul one was the one in Erden Chapel. People did not
oh,
find that very funny at all. But the one in Yahagul, like
yeah.
where there's the two hunters, people thought that was very funny.
Oh, okay. Good.
Good.
We're doing
Yeah.
science.
Yeah. So,
Excellent.
do you think they drank much water in Bloodborne, or they just drank blood?
I didn't find any water in Bloodborne other than like around.
The
Like
thing
that one
about
you talked about it,
about
but
Central
yeah.
Yharnam when you start there
Yeah.
is it's got aqueducts. They're just
Oh,
drained.
there's water there.
There
Yeah.
would normally have been water there, but they drained the aqueducts. I think they
Yeah.
specify it was done to cut off Cathedral Ward.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
there's no
maybe
water in Bloodborne. They have to drink from like bottled water. They have to buy bottled water and like
I think that was the Healing Church's other scam. But yeah, there were a whole lot of like aqueducts and things in Ghana, and I think like I've talked about this a little bit before, but the impression that Yharnam gives, which is partially due to the design and partially just due to like the fact that Bloodborne beyond a certain distance always just renders water to fill in the distance
hmm,
thing, is that it looks like it's probably coastal. It's like a
yeah.
coastal trade city that people are stopping in briefly and then leaving.
Mhm.
Hence, it's got like dry docks. It's got like these canals that run through it. There's all these like boats and things, and you find like all these ruined like sources of transportation there, and like
Mhm.
people leaving piles of like suitcases and books and things around, like they've just fled. And it's like, how the hell did this thing stay afloat economically if all it does is make blood? Which I know is like not a question you usually ask about like an overtly fantastical setting. But
Mhm.
I think you can pretty reasonably go, well yeah, Yharnam's probably like if you imagine there's like some massive body of water like a sea or something. And in order for boats to make it across, like they have to stop at some point and resupply and like everything. Yharnam's probably that place. Because people know about Yharnam. Like it's insular, but it's a place people know about. Like they talk about like the way people discuss Yharnam and the way the Yharnamites talk about the people outside Yharnam. So it's like, okay, probably. And also it's a fishing hamlet that's presumably quite nearby. Which I think settles that like it's probably like it's some coastal trade city. That's how it's staying afloat. That's like why it's able to kind of keep running despite the fact it doesn't seem to have an economy. It just seems to make blood. And that also explains why, like, it's never clear where the fishing hamlet's actually physically located, but it must be pretty close by if they've been there, because it's not like they have, like, planes at this point.
Willem took his private jet there.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sophie. So I'm gonna have to go soon.
Oh.
Oh, but okay. So Pogo.
Okay, we didn't do
asking...
why. What is water? H2O.
Yeah.
Where is the water? Everywhere. It's even in you. You're made of water. Why is water? Good question. Because I think it's more like we need water. Everything about us requires water to exist. So water's like, why is everything?
Okay. You said we need water to exist. Our world, this one,
yeah,
everything is about water.
Yeah.
Aldrich envisioned an age of the deep sea, aka water. Was he envisioning our universe?
He was envisioning water world.
You know, I only found out that people don't like that movie when I moved to Canada.
People didn't really ever hate it, though. It was just like a joke. Because it costs so much. It costs so much, but like by modern standards, it's like quite reasonably budgeted.
Yeah. True. Yeah, we in the Union didn't get the news about how much it cost, which is kind of a fun movie. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so...
Okay, 12. We can do this.
Yeah, Pogo... What? Yeah, so Pogo Stomp is asking, what, where, why, specifically the altar on the old abandoned workshop with the cord on it?
Oh, the memory altar.
Oh, old abandoned workshop.
Oh yeah, but that's where the memory altar is now.
It's called the memory altar?
The place where you attach Carol runes is called the memory altar, and it's where the bench is in the old workshop.
Okay, yeah, I don't use runes, so I wouldn't know.
That's true. The thing is, if you said to me, like, I didn't realize you could equip Carol runes, I thought they were just cute, I would believe you.
I know you can equip them, I know that much. You know me, I just don't upgrade. I don't do the equipping or the upgrading.
I remember when, a long time ago, we were streaming, and you said I needed blood gems, so I needed blood echoes, so I sold all of the gems and all of the rocks, and then I realized, actually need to use those. Sayuchi, Sin doesn't use anything, okay? This is true. This is not a weird flex. She actually did this. Sin beat Bloodborne by getting up an hour early for like months and months and just farming Central Yharnam.
I farmed a lot. Yeah, the first 2 brick trolls.
Yeah.
I would farm those a lot because I'm like, this game is hard. No, what happened is I got stolen by Yahar'gul. And they scared me, and I was offended. I was triggered. I was like, you can't do that to someone. You can't put me in a bag, take me somewhere. I don't understand where I am. I'm so scared. I don't know how to leave this place because you can't, like, reload. You can't go to a save. So when I got out there, I found the lamp. I don't know how. I was just like, I was so full of anxiety. I was like, I will go back there, and I will kill every single one of you. But I don't know how. I'm not very good. I don't understand this game. But I know there are 2 brick trolls out there that I learned how to parry. So for months and months and months, I just parried those trolls until I got all my stats to 50. And then I came back to Yahar'gul and I one-shotted everything, and then... Yeah.
So she did not upgrade any of her weapons, she didn't use gems, she didn't use runes, she just got all her stats to 50.
Yes, thank you. And we have the, you and I streamed Dark Souls, and I beat Seath all by myself.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I'm gonna link that.
you landed the final blow by yourself.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
but I
You
only
had a bit
had
of help prior
one,
to that.
a little bit.
Yeah,
What we can say.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, we've got a what, where, why. We've got a what and
Anyway,
a where to why.
yeah.
Okay.
Jefferson, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna go. Sophie, meanwhile, you can tell us about why we're doing the stream, and I will go and get the questions and paste them into your Discord.
Thank you, Sin. So, this is a stream that we are doing partially for your benefit, but mostly to benefit the Bloodborne Wiki, which is Bloodborne-Wiki, which is where we're pulling all these images from. It is a very important community resource that is run entirely by volunteers, and it is all paid for by Meth, who pays for it all out of her own pocket. And you've probably got the impression from the fact that I'm able to pull up all of these images and videos and scans and things that there's a lot of information and a lot of just big files and stuff on that server that needs to be paid for. It actually surpassed 20 million views pretty recently,
Yeah.
which is a huge amount. And then when you consider like 20 million views, all of the stuff that's on there, one person's paying for the bandwidth. It does need some kind of money to stay afloat, and Meth has a rule that she does not want to run ads on it. She doesn't want to use Fandom or Fextra or anything like that. She wants it to be entirely run by her, so she has control over the design, she has control over the content. You're not getting like obnoxious banner ads showing up, things like that. So it's entirely her. She is totally in control of it. She is totally in control of what's posted there and what everything looks like. The downside of that is that she's got to pay for it out of her own pocket. So every return to Yharnam, we just try to raise a little bit of awareness that, like, hey, if you appreciate the work that Meth does and you've got, like, something like $5 is fine, $3 is fine. She's just on coffee.com. Just, like, maybe consider giving her something to help offset the cost of running it. It doesn't have to, it's not a subscription based thing. Like, if you just want to give her $5 one time, totally fine. And yeah, it just helps offset the cost of running the website.
Thank you, Sophie. So I'm just pasting the questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I gotta. My sister's calling me like, are you coming? Wait. Oh no, there's a limit to how much you can post. Okay, wait. I got this. I got this. So this is one. Oh no. Don't work. Okay, I got this. I got this. This is 2, and this is 3. Okay. I think that's all of them. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. If anybody's missed, we apologize. It's gonna be my mistake because I couldn't post everything at once. Discord is like you have to post it in parts, but I think everything is there.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, some people are saying, like, I can't spare money and everything. So basically, like, this is not like we have to get it to a certain number by the end of Return to Yharnam. It's basically just, like, bringing up that, hey, you can donate money, because she doesn't have, like, a big donate button on the wiki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's no pressure. It's just like awareness.
Yeah, lots of people talking, like, Fextra's not great. We brought this up a little bit at the start, but basically, like, one of the issues with wikis and stuff that discuss Bloodborne is that the game was not very clear about how a lot of its functions actually worked. And that was compounded by the guidebook being based on a pre-release build that was different to the one that we got. So there's stuff in the guidebook that's just not in the game anymore, and there's stuff in the game that's not mentioned in the guidebook. So basically, Bloodborne Wiki came out of that. It was like everything needs to be accurate and tested.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to run. Thank you so much, Sophie, and thank
Thank
you
you,
so much,
Sin.
Mav, and thank you everyone for coming by. It was good to hang out with
It
everyone. Nice
was.
to see like all the cool people and
Yep.
all the new and familiar faces. Very
Mm-hmm.
exciting. We should do this again.
Exciting. Okay.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks
Okay.
again, and I'll see you
Bye-bye.
later.
Happen when okay. Oh, it's just me now. Okay. Alrighty. So what have we got next? I got. Okay, so why is there a dead hunter with the rune tool just after the Witch of Hemwick? There, that's better. Okay. So, that is actually a remnant, again, when we're talking about old versions of the game. In a super, super, super early, but it may even be the one on the map, actually. Hang on. I reckon we can get evidence. We didn't talk about the bench! We didn't talk about the bench. Sorry. The bench. Okay. Zoom in on this. So the reference was to the altar and the bench, I think. So that altar there, those used to be the checkpoints that the game would use instead of lantern. I will find an image. Here. Load. Load, you fool. There we go. Okay. That there, this is from an old trailer. That there is that. See? Back, front, back. Those are still used. They're used in the chalices, holding the lanterns that show if a boss room is open or not. So that used to be there, I'm assuming, because it was the warp point. I can sort of show you a little bit more of that, actually. We go to press kit art. So for people who didn't see the last time we streamed this stuff, this is the Bloodborne press kit that was given out at press events. This copy actually was sort of donated to us by Lance McDonald. He had 2 copies of the press kit. One was about to fall apart. I kind of said to him, like, hey, it'd be nice if, like, we could scan that in, because there's stuff in there that's not in the official art book. He said you can have the one that's about to fall apart. It was going to cost a lot of money to safely post, because it's quite bulky, and it would need all this padding to stop it disintegrating in transit. Since I live about 4 hours away from Lance, we just sort of went, okay, fuck it, I'm going to get on the train, and I'm going to come and I'm going to get this from you in person. It was actually cheaper to get a train ticket than post the fucking thing. So, yeah, one day I went on a, about 10-hour round trip to grab this from Lance. So, you can see this is actually the Hunter's Dream. It's like there's like the wooden floorboard and everything. And, this is like, there used to be like a warp chair, which was another old checkpoint. And you could see that like, it would sort of warp back and forth, I guess, from the dream. And that is presumably an earlier version of that, where like this would have been the primary point you warped to and from by using that statue. But that's probably why that's there. That's there because that's where they so it's not clear if that's where they actually sacrificed the Child of the Vile Blood, or if that's where the Child of the Vile Blood was already dead, and they just used the third chord there. Like there's quite, I think there's like blood there. There's blood. No, there's blood there in the dream because of the memory. Yeah, there's blood there in the dream. I think there's blood there in. But basically, yeah, that was where the Child of the Vile Blood got sacrificed. or it's basically that's where the third chord was placed to beckon the moon presence. Actually, hang on. I can show you. This is something that's like really interesting. Maybe she didn't. Maybe it's time. Here we go. Basically there is a when you're in the old workshop and it's the red moon, like the red moon's absolutely massive. It's like completely dominating the sky. So it's like they put the cord of the Vile Blood Child there, that called down the moon presence, and the moon presence created the Hunter's Dream, which is why the Hunter's Dream looks like this. So there we go. That's why that's there, and that's kind of why that's there. So that's number 12 done. Hunters, hang on, old workshop. So what is it? It's an altar and also a statue. Why is it there? Because that's where they sacrificed. Well, this is I keep saying sacrifice. That's where they put the third chord to call down the moon presence, and that was an old checkpoint. Also, like this whole building here, like it comes across structurally like it's like a little tiny chapel, rather than a like a workshop per se. Like the way it's laid out and everything, like it looks like it used to be a little like a little church, like a little private chapel for like the grounds of a manor or something, and all this stuff's been moved in later on. But it's possible like the altar was there from that. Anyway, I've totally forgotten what the next one was. The next one was Dead Hunter with a workshop tool. Okay, so I was getting it. I'm gonna end up opening about 200 headers, but okay, it's past midnight for me. I'll probably stay up till about 1, so about an hour. Because like I have stuff to do tomorrow, unfortunately. So, and the trans. That's not the. So you can see here, like that, at some point. This is like another really early version of it. The hunter that has the workshop tool was down there because, like I said, the game would start in Hemwick. And the hunter wouldn't have been in that position, I don't think, because then, I don't know how the boss would have worked, like, because Saint Laura would have been there. I think the hunter would probably have been a different part of the building. But that hunter, when you touched it, that would be the initial link to the hunter's dream. Because this is a version where, like, the way that you moved around through, like, checkpoints and fast travel and things was corpses. So there's be the corpse of the hunter there, and you touch it, and that would take you to the dream. That's sort of like when you became a hunter, like you sort of I think the idea is like you're kind of inheriting, like, the legacy of that hunter who was there. So you'd get it from there. And then, like, Rom's corpse, presumably that would teleport you to where Rom was, etc., etc. That's why that model exists. Why it's there now is, like, I think they mentioned that I think they specify the Rune Workshop tool went missing. It's been. Oh no, it's one. I think, yeah, Gurman. Gurman's like, we don't have as many tools as we used to, basically. So the idea is like, Is it one of them specifies it's been misplaced? It might be the Arcane Haze Extractor. Yeah, misplaced. So the idea is like there were all these tools, they've all been taken and they've been misplaced around Yharnam, so, or in this case underground. And yeah, so it's presumably just that. It's like a hunter ran off with it. I don't think it's Carol, because Carol would not have been a hunter. Carol would have been a scholar. There we are. That's what I meant by the blood. There's the blood. It's also ironic that it's like Willem would have really liked the Willem would have loved the Carol runes because they don't rely on blood, and then it's like there's this massive pool of blood on the altar. So what is it? It's a corpse at the end of the Witch of Hemwick's room. Why is it there? Because in development it was going to be your initial link to the dream, and in the current version it's just a hunter who ran off with a workshop tool. And why is it there? Because the Witch of Hemwick like capturing people and ripping their eyeballs out and doing weird shit with their organs. You know, it's a vibe. Hunter with workshop. Hunter with rune tool. Okay, what will life 14 is gonna be? Is there any indication? Okay, this is from Lies of P. Funk. This is Agent Funk. Is there any indication of who Carol was or where they might have ended up, cut content or otherwise? So, as far as I can tell, like, Carol was not ever going to properly be a character. I can show you. Where is it? Is it just 24? It's not going to be. Figure out how to do this. Basically, in the older versions of it, instead of it being like you find the Carol runes and then you use this weird brand to put them in your brain, there would be these things called the Book of Carol. Actually, let's look at unused content. You would find pages from a book called the Book of Carol. And they would have the runes written on them. This is... Sorry. There is literally like a bunch of like, it's Carol runes, but they're drawn differently and they're on pages. The problem is, I have that file, but it's on a drive. But like, let's connect it. Fuck the place. Hang on. See if I can get this. Menu icon. Well, there we go. These ones. Okay. So these are the old Carol rune images. And the idea is they're pages from a book that Carol wrote. So as for the name Carol, I remember when Aegon was talking about it, he suggested it might have something to do with Carol Houselander, who was a kind of a Christian mystic artist who did these. I don't know if they're going to show up here. She did basically etchings, and that led to this theory, like, oh, Carol's named after Carol Houselander. But like, then the way that it's written in the Japanese script is it's like it's written like Kirill. And I think literally the idea behind calling them Carol runes is that they they were interested in the idea of Cyrillic characters, like the way that there's the Cyrillic characters in like Eastern European languages, and like Cyrillic character became like Carol character. And yeah, I think it's just that because for a bit, but yeah, the answer is there was never, as far as we can tell, like there's no evidence of a Carol existing in game. They are always called like the Carol runes, but no Carol ever shows. So what? Carol from Bergenworth. Where? Nowhere, because they don't exist anymore. Why? They needed a backstory for the runes. So you can see I'm using. I'm scrolling down is the problem. Oh, it's kicked me out of the Discord call because it was silent. That's why. Okay. Carol. Okay, hang on. I'm going to turn my camera back on using an actual webcam. Sorry. Hello. So, put you back there. So now we're looking at... This is from Meth, so I think we have to answer it. Does the corpse pile dump behind the clinic suggest the real Yosefka was bad as well? So, let's go to... Yosefka's clinic. Are the caves... Oh, they're not. Oh, no, this will be in forbidden. Okay, whatever. So, the way this works is... There's so many little buttons here, it's very confusing. Right, so... The thing about, is... Ooh, I'm floating. Okay, so... Yosefka's clinic. In, underneath Yosefka's clinic... Oh god, yeah, this is, because this is like... Ages ago, Sin made a running joke out of, like, we've never done a Yosefka episode, and when we do, it'll be the last one we ever do. It's the most obvious subject. So, the thing... What Meph is referring to is, like, when you go down the ladder at the back of Yosefka's clinic into that underground... cave area, which, like, if you watch the last episode, we're reasonably sure actually used to be under Bergenworth and they moved it. There's just piles and piles of bodies everywhere. And they've clearly been experimented on, because if you look at the gems that they're giving you, they're like arcane gems, and I think there's like dirty gems and things like that. So weird stuff's happening to those bodies, and there's all those celestials kind of like a little bit further out of the cave mouth. So it's like all these experiments are going on. So what Meph is wondering is, like, is the actual Yosefka, as in the non-imposter one, is she the one dumping those bodies because she's doing experiments? So the whole thing about Yosefka, and again, this I think traces back to the guide, is that according to the guide, Yosefka is a healing church doctor. And she never actually specifically says, like, by the way, I'm not part of the healing church. That's not Yosefka's voice at all. She doesn't say, by the way, I'm not part of the healing church. What she does, though, is, like, the way that she runs her clinic is the polar opposite to the way that the imposter runs the clinic. Because the way the healing church work is they're like, everyone who's sick, come to us and we'll heal you, because they want easy access to people to experiment on. Whereas the original Yosefka is very, very, very adamant that, like, if you're infectious, you're not allowed in here. Um, she's very, very concerned with the welfare of the patients. And the blood vials that she gives you, very specifically, they say that, like, this is better than what the Healing Church do. And she's also not in Cathedral Ward. So the indication there is actually, like, that Yosefka was, like, actually attempting to treat people during the hunt. She's a doctor from Yharnam. And then the Healing Church take over. And when the Healing Church take over, that's when it turns into, like, just give us people to experiment on and we'll turn them into monsters. So that's sort of why, like, even though the guidebook said she's a Healing Church doctor, the fact that she doesn't act like that, combined with the fact that, like, her blood vials are explicitly flagged as being better than what the Healing Church do, that always said to me she's not a Healing Church doctor. She's not. She's like a Yharnam doctor. So what Mev's asking is, like, well, hang on, there's also all these dead bodies, like, in a big pile behind the clinic in the cave. Is that evidence that actually she was also kind of shitty? Oh, hey, Amaranth. That she was also kind of like, was she doing horrible shit? So that that cave is the more, it's one of those things, the more you think about it, the more weird it gets, because that cave looks like it's being used independently of the clinic to get to and from Forbidden Woods, because when you look at, like, what's outside that cave, there's like a White Church doctor set, and then there's like a corpse with a bunch of blue elixir on it, which is the thing that you use when you want to go stealth. You chug blue elixir and it makes you harder to detect. And then there's all of these celestials that look like, you know, they're a thing the Healing Church are producing. So basically, like, the Healing Church and also, like, Yuri is at Bergenworth is the other big thing. Like, Yuri's from the choir. So the like, the choir have been able to get from there to Bergenworth. The question is, did that happen during, like, did that happen, like, very rapidly after, like, you beat Gascoigne, in between you beating Gascoigne and you looping back through the clinic? Did all of that happen then? Or was that already happening? And then they just happened to take over during that? Because again, like, it just depends on how you read that question. Because, like, I always read it as, like, the church have probably been going back and forth through that, like, surreptitiously for a long time, and they just decide to turn on the clinic that night. But it's all, like, you don't know, because, like, there's all this evidence that they're using blue elixir to make themselves harder to detect. It does confuse things a fair bit, though, because it's like, if that's the... It works if you assume that only the choir know about it. Because if the mainstream church knew about it, they wouldn't be trying to get through the password door. It's like all these oddities. So, like, was Yosefka kind of like a shitty person? Was she doing horrible experiments? Like, I don't think she was, but, like, the source of the bodies is going to depend on your personal interpretation of if all of that stuff with the choir going to and from Bergenworth, if that happened over a long period of time, or it happened, like, during that night. And I think it probably did happen over a long period of time, because there's evidence that there's, like notes that they've written in Bergenworth. Like, if you look at Bergenworth, there's the notes there. You're not actually reading the book. You're reading this, like, piece of paper that's been slipped into, like, a note on the book. So it's not like you're picking up the book and it says, like, the red moon, blah blah blah. You're picking up the book and there is, like, a note scrawled in it that's like someone's read the book and they've written that down, like they're doing like academic research. So that's sort of how I took it. So that's Yusafka bodies. What else do we have? It's 10:24. Lands outside of Yharnam. This is from Dave R. Okay. So lands outside of Yharnam. There's a few mentioned, like Lauren is the weird one. Because they talk about Lauren being like a tragic land that was lost to the sands long ago. But then it's also somewhere you can access with a chalice, which is just no one knows. The full story on that honestly is like we probably brought this up before, but the initial plan behind the chalice dungeons is like there's no distinction, there's no like Umaru, Lauren, East Hintertombs. It's like there's just one big like chalice thing. And when you created it, there were additional rituals you could do. So along with like fetid, rotted, and cursed, there were things like they were called Cosmos and Storm. And Cosmos and Storm were just like they provided the effects that you get in Ace and Lauren. Like you get that weird like star effect or like the arcing lightning that you find from Lauren. But back then it's like it's all just one structure, but depending on what you do with the chalice, you can get like a version with like weird cosmic mist or a version with lightning. That's where they come from. So attempting to make total sense out of that is never going to work because it's like the concept of Lauren and East was added after they finished the assets that comprise Lauren and East. This is actually something that I think is worth discussing when people are doing like there's certain kinds of analysis that like attributes a huge amount of authorial intent to like things in the game that I don't it's hard to talk about because like I talk about authorial intent a fair amount. I don't think it defines things, but it's useful to sort of like if you're asking why the fuck is this thing here, it's helpful to go, well, based on what it looks like they were trying to do, it's probably that thing. But basically the thing about when you talk about like the authorial intent in something like Bloodborne is that like the intention behind making like all of the assets that comprise Lauren and East was like the intention that they had maybe 3, 4, 2, whatever years before they had come up with the idea of Lauren and East. So like, yeah, they're clearly thinking and they have an idea they're trying to articulate, but it's like they articulated one set of ideas and then they changed it, but they still had those like assets that were made under the old set of ideas. So it's not like every single thing is like actually part of this intricate masterwork. It's like some of this was made like 2 years ago or 5 years ago and they've moved it around 3 or 4 times. So trying to get to the bottom of it is never actually going to work. Because they didn't start off with like Bloodborne as it is now. This was not the plan. It evolved over time, and it's like anything that evolves. It's just like bits and pieces that are left over. So that's basically like you're never going to make sense of where the hell Lauren is. Never going to make sense of where Ace is. They're just the important thing is they're places that did happen. Like Lauren, the reason Lauren exists, the reason that like Lauren exists basically to thematically flesh out like what happens in Yharnam, because it's like Lauren's this place. It's again like it's the source of the Nightmare Frontier area. It's probably where the castle and the Nightmare of Mensis came from, and it's like, yeah, there was this other place called Lauren. It happened a long time ago. They had a healing church. They had clergy. They were experimenting with blood, and then the society collapsed and it became overrun by beasts, and then you find the remnants of it in the Nightmare Frontier. So it's like, map that onto Yharnam. Yharnam's the same thing. You're screwing around with blood. You have a clergy who are experimenting with blood. Society collapses. It's overrun by beasts, and that leaves behind the nightmare frontier. So in the next cycle, the next childhood, whatever you want to call it, humans are going to astral project themselves to the nightmare front, to the hunter's nightmare, what we call the hunter's nightmare. They won't know it's called the hunter's nightmare. It will just be this weird, like, sunken city with blood everywhere. They won't know what it is, and it will be their nightmare frontier. And they will explore that, and the whole thing will just happen all over again. So that's kind of why Lauren exists, but as for where it is, it's not in. The places outside Yharnam, like, they do the thing the Souls games always do, where there's the East. If you have a katana, by definition, you're from the East. They talk about a swordsman or someone, like a traveler or something, that introduces the Chickagate to Canehurst, because Canehurst are very, like, medieval Europe looking, but they also have katanas. So, like, the impression, again, there is, like, someone... like, they mention that the Chickagate is from another country, so it's like this was introduced to Canehurst by someone from, presumably from the East. So it's like the East is sort of interacting with that. It's also possible it was introduced to them by someone from the Chalice Dungeons, because the Keeper of the Old Lords also fights with the kind of katana weapon. Also worth pointing out that, like, the Thumerian Elder specifically has a weapon that changes form, as does the Descendants actually got what's basically Eileen's Blades of Mercy. Like, he's got this single sword, and then when he goes into phase 2, he flips the sword like that, and it's exactly like Eileen's. And then the Thumerian Elder, he has the staff, and the staff is constantly changing what kind of weapon it actually is. So you can see, like, the concept of the trick weapon. It's credited sort of to Gurman, but, like, this is actually something that's, like, been created before, and it's possible that, like, it's just passed down to people in Yharnam that you can do this. There's wherever Volta comes from. And that in itself is also very interesting, because it shows that, like, firstly, like, Volta and his constables, it says they pursue a beast to Yharnam to get revenge on it. So there's beasts outside of Yharnam, which, like, we don't really have confirmation of before the DLC. So it's like, yeah, there's beasts outside of Yharnam. And they're known to come from Yharnam. So, like, a beast... again. If, like, a beast kills Volta's... I don't think it's actually clear who is killed, and that's presumably... I just assumed it was one of Volta's comrades. Is killed by a beast, they can go to Yharnam to get revenge on it. So they know that, like, Yharnam exists, and there are beasts that come from Yharnam. Yamamura, I think, is the same. Like, he... Like, you can tell I actually have not played Bloodborne since last return to Yharnam. I'm getting a little fuzzy. But I think they make a point of, like, Yamamura is kind of similar. Like, he came to Yharnam to get revenge on a beast. He came to... Yeah. Eastern warrior pursued a beast for honorable revenge. So again, it's like Yamamura is someone from the East. He can get revenge on a beast, so that rhymes. So you can see, like, all these places outside of Yharnam know that Yharnam exists, and they know there's beasts there. So you do get a sense, like, there is a world outside. It's not just, like, Yharnam on its own. That, I think, is all you really find out about places other than Yharnam. They're not given names. It's not like Dark Souls where you're hearing about Thorland and Corland and Kareem and all these other places. You just hear about, like, from outside of Yharnam. Anyway. Am I suggesting Bloodborne was hacked together in a hurry? I am not actually suggesting that at all. What I'm suggesting is that, like, we talked about this a little bit at the start, but, like, it's an iterative design process where they started with, like, they started by making the assets that sort of seemed to fit together. So it's like vampires, werewolves, Gothic City, underground tombs, And they're sort of pulling from like the imagery of like the Coppola Dracula movie, Brotherhood of the Wolf, Uzumaki, Lovecraft, and they're making them, and then you can see like over the repeated like revisions that the story had, because we have so many older versions of the game now and so many old bits of data that have been pulled up that are from like years before it came out, and some of them are from months before it came out, that over time they just sort of like moved those things around and like reconfigured how they worked. And a lot of the stuff that like frankly I like is stuff that is in like very, very, very close to release. So when people say like, oh, if it had have had more time, it would have made more sense and it would have been better, and I'm like, I kind of don't know. Because to me, the parts of Bloodborne that are like most resonant with me are the parts that just feel like it's operating on just like dream logic. Where it's like, here are things that are currently freaking me out. They're all going in the game, and how they actually like rationally justify it is not what they're really focused on. So like all the stuff about like Queen Yharnam and Murgo, and like we talked about it before, but like the way that they rewrite the history of the Healing Church pretty late in the day, like that causes a lot of logical problems with how the game like fits together rationally. But the story that they go with, I think, is a lot more resonant because it's like it's engaging more with those themes of like xenophobia and nationalism and racial purity and colonialism in a way more interesting way than if they just had there is a big scary church. So that's how I feel about it. Like, and I feel like if they had have had time to sit down and do it again, they may have lost some of those like the rougher edges of it, and the sort of more uncomfortable parts might have been kind of smoothed out a little bit, and I'm very happy with it as it is. So next one. Who was the first great one, and how did they become the great one, or were some number of great ones always great? So, great ones. So, it is absolutely never made clear what the first great one is. The thing about the stacked nightmare thing, which again, like, it's introduced in the DLC. Like, I am 100% certain that when they put those ship masts in the Nightmare Frontier, they were not thinking ahead to like, there's actually going to be another world under it, and those are the tops of the ships. But it works. It works very well. So the whole stacked nightmare thing that they introduce, like we've gone over this so many times. The implication there is that like it's loving my outfit, thank you. This Sin was like, oh my god, what do you look like, Lara Croft? This is a like $2 t-shirt that I got from Kmart, and this is just like a waistcoat. And I'm wearing them together because it was sort of hot today, but not that hot. Anyway. So what it does is it introduces this idea that it's like the Hunter's Nightmare is here, and then the Hamlet is here, and then the Nightmare Frontier is here. And what that suggests is like, well, hang on, like I said, there's this focus on like the successive childhoods of humanity, that like humanity sort of reaches an apotheosis or an apex or whatever you want to call it. New great one is created, and then everything goes back to that. Starts over again. So essentially what that's suggesting is that like, because you can't see the level above you, you can only see down, that there might be like another nightmare above the nightmare front. I mean, there is with this is why I say like this was not planned, because if they had thought this through at the time, you would not be able to see the Nightmare of Mensis, because that should really be invisible, but whatever. Above the Frontier / Mensis, there's presumably another nightmare, and maybe in that nightmare, if you look down, you can see the top of the Nightmare of Mensis castle. and then there's maybe a nightmare above that where you can see the top of the one below that, and it possibly just keeps going up because like it's totally unclear. They mention East being in contact with the cosmos, so I'm guessing that like if Lauren left behind the Nightmare Frontier, there is maybe like the East equivalent of that. There's like the Nightmare version of East is maybe above Lauren. So I don't know. As for like where it all comes from, like as far as the logic is concerned, it's just like if you evolve to a certain point. We talked about this many times, but basically, if you evolve, this is Bloodborne logic. This is not reality. If you evolve to a certain point, you think about evolution. Like the way that works is that you're giving birth to things, and those things are kind of succeeding you. So, like again, this is the logic of Bloodborne. That's like your kids are more evolved than you are, even though the concept of like more evolved is a very weird one because like evolution doesn't have like a telos, it's just a constant process of adaptation, but we'll leave that behind for now. You're giving birth to something that is like more evolved than you are. So when you hit the apex of evolution, which apparently exists in Bloodborne's world, you can't give birth anymore because nothing can be more evolved than you are. So that's presumably like the first great one would have just been the first being that reached an apex of evolution and couldn't change anymore. Oh, I know. Yeah, this is like, yeah, this is Kirk saying like listening. This as a biologist hurts. I know. Um, Miyazaki, like we talked about this in the iceberg thing, but I think Miyazaki like he cites RK selection theory as his like inspiration. I don't think he believes in it, but he's like got this weird concept that's like, oh, after a certain point you'd be so evolved that you couldn't he couldn't have children anymore, and he sort of has the great like the concept of the great ones longing for children because they can't have their own is drawn from that, which is not an endorsement of that theory by Miyazaki. I think he just liked it sort of set off something in his head about like, oh, okay, what if there were beings in the cosmos that was like incredibly godlike and beyond our comprehension, but they'd lost the ability to reproduce, so they felt like there was something missing because they didn't have their own children, so they were constantly reaching out and trying to find, new children for themselves. Like, it's an interesting concept, even if the RK selection, more evolved stuff is nonsense. Where are we at now? Right. There's a question about Ace and Lauren, like, where are they? We sort of, like, answered that, which is, like, as far as the game is concerned, they're not really anywhere. Like, the whole, like, the thing, again, about this is, like, you didn't used to go into the chalices from weird altars in the dream, and the chalices all used to be one place, so any attempt to absolutely make logical, rational sense of how the chalice dungeons physically connect to each other will not work. Because the chalices were designed with a totally different system. So, and the other part of that question was, do Great Ones live in space in the form? Is the moon presence the moon are Great One stars? So, oh yeah, Volpers, yeah, each Great One is unique. Like, this is the thing, like, it's not, attempting to rationalize it is not going to work. Every Great One's unique. It's just like you hit a point where you can't go any further. Like, this is, like, Cause is different to the moon presence, is different to Erden, is different to everything else. It's just like you've hit the apex. You can't go further than this. So basically, history just starts again. So This is about is the moon presence actually the moon? Like, I don't think it is. The thing about the moon is like they call the moon presence because it comes down when the moon is red, but like the red moon's also what allows the amygdala to appear in Yahuggle. It's what allows Erden to sort of break through and impregnate Ariana. It allows for like a lot of things to happen, and I think they just call it the moon presence because that's when they initially encounter it. The thing about the Great One's name is that their names are all descriptions of what they are. So they're not like Lovecraftian beings where they have these like weird names like Sethogua and Yarlath Hotep and stuff. It's like the moon presence is called the moon presence because it came down when the moon was red. Cos is like, if you look at the Japanese writing, it's gos. It's like gos, so it's meant to be like ghost. And if you actually plug like the Japanese script into Google Translate, it probably still does. I know it used to. It used to translate Cos's name as ghost. Amygdala's called that because, again, in Japanese it's called Armandos, as in almond, and it's got a big almond-shaped head. Who are we missing? Erden's called that because Erden's a voice, and the name Erden is an anagram of Odeon, which is the name given to a space that's designed to conduct sound. And Ebrietus is the name of a species of moth. And if you look at Ebrietus, she is this weird like insect thing. This weird sort of like pupa. She's got these big wings out of her back. So like, and this is also true of like the crawlers. They're weird things. They're called crawlers because literally that's what they are. They just crawl. Someone said, "Oh, it's a crawler." The winter lanterns are called that because their Japanese name is Hozuki. Hozuki is a kind of cherry that it also is called the winter lantern. And when that cherry, when it ripens or when it dies, it looks like the head of the winter lantern. It's got that sort of like, it looks like there is this big swollen thing with stuff underneath it. So again, like, that's where the names come from, and like the moon presence is called that because she comes down when the moon's red, but a lot of them come down. So the next one is, what became of the Tomb Prospectus? This is from Olivia Online. The Tomb Prospectus is still there. If you look in the Chalice dungeons, there's still Tomb Prospectors running around. The Tomb Prospectors presumably are the ones who got Murgo. It's a little weird. You find them in there's all these different ones mad. There's like ones that have gone mad, and there's like ones you can summon, like you can summon Olek, and I think it's like, the thing about Murgo is like you find it's like Queen Yharnam is here, Lawrence / Bloodletting Beast is here, and that's the version without the head, and that's the version of Queen Yharnam that's pregnant. So someone's come through, and they've got the Bloodletting Beast's head, and they've stolen Murgo from Yharnam in the form of the Yharnam stone, and Micolash has the stone. So presumably that was like Tomb Prospectors with Mensis. Because you don't actually really find Mensis people in the dungeons. You just find Tomb Prospectors and Tomb Prospectors who've gone mad. But again, this would have been a while ago because they have Murgo since before the game starts. Ironically, the Tomb Prospectors are actually probably the safest members of the Healing Church. Because everything above ground basically dies. So killed when the red moon happens. So the people who were spelunking actually made it out. So there we go. What is the equivalent of Glocken's pyromancyacademy.com in the Bloodborne world? So glockenspyromancyacademy.com is a little joke that Sin and I came up with, and then I blinked and she got her boyfriend to register glockenspyromancyacademy.com. And I had to make fake ads for it. So we have to think about something in the Bloodborne world that is like some sort of weird scam. And I think earlier on we suggested that the Healing Church began a quest to cure baldness. So I think like there would be some like Yharnam equivalent of keeps.com that the Healing Church are trying to sell to people. And that's the equivalent. And they use they use the model viewer to remove Gascoigne's hat and show that he's bald, and they're like, did you know that 4 out of 5 hunters experience hair loss before the age of 20? Also, canonically, Gascoigne is 30. We have to look. I'm sorry, but this is blowing my mind. Gascoigne, according to internal notes from Software, is 30. This is a 30-year-old man. I'm gonna put myself next to the. Okay, hang on. This man is canonically 10 years younger than me. This man is younger than me when Bloodborne came out. This man was 29 years old less than a year ago. I know times were tough back then, but I think that they may have gone too far. He is in very good shape, particularly here. Like, he's quite fit. He's a big, tall, strong boy. He's got no gut going on there. He's like ripped. He's got a very, very flat stomach. You know, he can carry this big iron around all day. I'm just saying. Maybe he's dyeing his hair. Right? Maybe he's got the Sephiroth thing where he's like younger, but he's got great. Anyway. People are suggesting it could be a meth thing. $30 old. Anyway. You know, it is 1 a.m. on the 8th of April, which means I will be 40 in 23 hours. We're doing this now because I won't be here on my birthday. I will be somewhere. On my birthday, I will actually be spending it with a friend of mine whose pet hates include video games, horror, and animation. Which just proves that I do have quite an active life outside of this, because if this is all I knew, we would not be friends. What are the poison swamps made of? Okay. Okay, there's a question about fast poison. We'll talk about rapid poison. So, rapid poison is a really, really weird mechanic in Bloodborne because it behaves... Okay. Rapid poison is a really weird mechanic in Bloodborne because you'd look at the name rapid poison and you'd think, oh, this is toxin from Dark Souls, where it's like you have poison that drains your hit points slowly and you have toxin that drains them really quickly. The problem is in Bloodborne, when you get poisoned, if you've the last game you played was Dark Souls, which it was for me, you think, wow, this poison's really fast. This is basically toxin. What the hell is rapid poison? And then you get rapid poison, and it goes like it builds up, and then it just takes a chunk out of the health. It's basically the same as frenzy, and that is because rapid poison, as far as we can tell, is just they changed the name of the bleed stat. Ingrid, what is your problem? Over here. So yeah, rapid poison was just bleed. Like, if you look at what causes rapid poison, it's like the big like cleavers that are carried by the Murgo attendants, which is like a big sharp weapon. It's the Chikage, most obviously. It's frankly not that many things. I think the only thing in the game that causes rapid poison that might reasonably be poisonous is the scorpion. I'm going to check. While I check, just a reminder that we are doing this to raise money for Bloodborne Wiki. If you're a Bloodborne or love someone who is, please consider giving, $5 or $7 or $10 or whatever to Mephistopheia through coffee.com/Mephistopheia, because it basically helps the wiki stay afloat. It's a huge resource, and it just costs money to run because it doesn't run ads. So if you got $5 or something like that, buy Meph a coffee, and we'll all appreciate you. So, rapid poison. You gonna say that? I think the only actual poisonous thing in the game that causes rapid poison is the scorpions. Everything else is something that's like bladed. Gravekeeper's gone. Yeah, they inflict rapid poison. That's pretty much the only poisonous thing in the game that does it. The rest is like swords. So yeah, rapid poison is just the bleed stat, and they changed its name to rapid poison. It doesn't actually behave like rapid poison at all. It's possible that, like, just thinking about it now, they may have just thought that, like, having a bleed stat in Bloodborne is a little ridiculous because everything in the game is constantly bleeding and chugging blood, so maybe it just seemed like, what would this even mean? Bloodborne. Oh yeah, the headless bloodletting beast does it as well. You're right. The little lava sort of like flies do it. Yeah. I don't know. It's bleed. It's just the bleed stat from Dark Souls. They just called it rapid poison. Do the spiders from the ROM battle become Gardens of Eyes? Okay, so let's look up. These are the children of ROM, the spiders that are summoned by ROM. And something you'll notice if I look at what they do is they drop. Thank you, Baconomics. Yeah, they have a 1% chance of dropping Madman's knowledge. And the thing is, you find them. It's going to sound ridiculous, but you find them around ROM. And they're in, like, circles around her. And when you think about the fact that, like, ROM used to be a person and she ascended to become a spider. And then you also have evidence of these people here who also clearly used to be human and they became spiders. And then you have, like was mentioned, the Garden of Eyes. Again, also used to be human, became, we're not 100% sure what this is. It's kind of a fly. It's kind of a spider. I don't know if we can show it here, but that little rock it's holding there. Oh, sorry, I'm in the way. I'll zoom out. The rock that it's holding there, the thing that it's like, that thing, it's, when it jumps on you, it actually holds that thing up to your ear. That thing there. That's got a spider drawn on it. So, it's kind of turning into an amygdala, I guess. It's got the tail. Anyway. So what I'm getting at is, like, the other spiders in the ROM fight, considering, like, all of that and the fact that they drop Madman's knowledge, that has always said to me that, like, they were the other scholars around ROM. It's like when ROM transformed, the others probably also partially transformed with her, because I don't know where they would have come from. Because, like, if she just became the spider, like, did she develop the ability to summon more? I mean, that's kind of how the boss fight works. The spiders fall out of the sky, but it's like, were they? Is she literally just pulling spiders out of the ether, or were they, like, people who were with her? Hey, Final Forest. We're actually going to have to call this thing. It's 1 a.m. and Sin's already had to go. But yeah, like, I always assumed they were, like, other people who went through the same transformation process as ROM and just didn't go as far as her. So... Oh, we might... Oh my god, we're almost done. We can actually do all these. So, this is from Vulpes Obscura, who's actually in the chat, I think, probably still. If Queen Yharnam can be in the chalice and alive, and in Yharnam as a ghost, is anything precluding her from being in the nightmare as the moon presence? Okay, so Queen Yharnam, we'll go find her. No, wait, her full name is Yharnam Fumarian Queen. This question is from your wife. Oh my god. Hello to Vulpes Obscura's wife. So, the Yharnam Fumarian Queen boss. Right. She is pregnant when you fight her. Like, this is pregnant Queen Yharnam. She's got the abdomen, shows that she's pregnant. When you meet her in... Where's this one? It's not the full thing. Basically, when you meet her in the Nightmare of Mensis, and when you see her on Moonside Lake, she is... she doesn't have the bulge anymore. She doesn't look pregnant anymore, and her abdomen's covered in blood. Now, those are two distinct versions. When you fight the pregnant one, she's much, much more powerful. She, like, and basically the power that she's got there, it's implied to actually be from Murgo. So, like, before, there's all these really powerful attacks she'll do where, like, I don't mean powerful as in damaging, I mean, like, showing that, like, she's basically telekinetic, she can lift things and drop them and freeze you in place and stuff. But that's happening while Murgo is crying and while she's, like, rubbing her stomach. So it's like, actually, some of that power is coming from Murgo. The other thing that she does in the dungeons is she splits into, like, clones of herself. And those little clones of herself, they don't have... Oh, hang on, here's some Beast Roll stuff. This is There we are. You can see there she is in the Nightmare of Mansus. Not a great angle, actually. This was the first thing I ever worked with Meph on. I'm like getting so many flashbacks. Yeah, you can see there, like, she's no longer pregnant. So the baby's been taken. But also what happens is when you fight her in the boss fight, she can split off into these little clones of herself, and the clones also don't have the pregnant stomach. So it's not clear if, like, actual Queen Yharnam is projecting herself and this is what she looks like now, or if, like, the clones always look like this. It's not clear, but the idea is she's sending out these, like, sort of echoes of herself to do things, and I am guessing that, like, they're just not very powerful, and that's why she can't fight the moon presence, because it's not actually, like, it's either like a sort of shadow version of Queen Yharnam, or she's so weak without Murgo that she doesn't actually stand a chance of fighting the wet nurse. It could be either. So that's it's like it could basically, yeah, it could be either. She's either it's like it's not the real Queen Yharnam, or it's like Queen Yharnam herself is powerless without Murgo, and that's why she's not fighting the wet nurse. That's why she's standing outside the wet nurse boss arena crying and praying, because she has no actual means of engaging with it. So, oh lordy, it's past 1 a.m. and I look like it. So that's how she can be like. They also specify on the Kumaru I Held Chalice that, like, no, it's on the Yharnam Stone, I think. It's on the Yharnam Stone. Even if you kill Queen Yharnam, her consciousness survives in the labyrinth. So, like, she also kind of, like, can't die. There's all this weird stuff around Queen Yharnam that she's basically immortal, and there's, like, different versions of her, and one of them is pregnant and one of them isn't, and the one that's not pregnant isn't very strong. So then the follow-up is, like, questioning whether she's the moon presence, and, like, I don't think she's the moon presence. I think they're completely separate things. But, like, if we look at there's no way of illustrating this, unfortunately. The whole thing about Lawrence being the bloodletting beast is actually, hang on, headless bloodletting beast. This is another, like, we brought this up before. Basically, X-Tren took these herself. These aren't done in, like, a model view, or Bloodborne doesn't have a photo mode or anything like that. The way that she did this was she just edited her save files she figured out how to do it in a way that would turn the bloodletting beast and all the other bosses' AI off. She was able to actually get these shots in game, and that was, like, incredibly clever of her. And it's, yeah, just incredible. Like, you get it, like, directly from the game with, like, the in-game lighting and everything, but there's no photo mode or anything. So here's the headless version. The headless version's immediately before Queen Yharnam, and if we accept that the headless bloodletting beast is Lawrence, then what we know about Lawrence is that Lawrence left the hunter's dream. He left Gurman behind after a contract was made, and Gurman is expecting him to come back. And it's like, what kind of contract would you make with the moon presence? Because we know that Great Ones only want one thing, and it's fucking disgusting. Babies. Great Ones want babies, and then you find what amounts to Lawrence's corpse in front of where pregnant Queen Yharnam is. So it's like putting 2 and 2 together. It's like, okay, Lawrence went down into the contract was to give the moon presence another child, so Lawrence has gone all the way down into the chalices to try to get Murgo, and he's transformed and died just as he's about to get there. So that's the Yharnam moon presence connection. And I'm assuming, like, Micolash must not know, or must just be hung up on CODs. Because otherwise, like, why, like, Micolash wouldn't just do that? If Micolash is mad, it doesn't matter. So we actually have time to do all these. What is Erden? And why connect them to Gwyn? So, I don't think we ever connected Erden to Gwyn. I'm sure someone's connected Erden to Gwyn and got 1 million views for it. Basically, hang on. Hi! Hi, Eugenio. You trying to tell me something? I'm pausing to see if Eugenio has something important to say. How is Cos pregnant? Okay, well, we'll do that next. Okay, so what is Erden? So Erden never shows up in the game. But hang on, I will do this. That's Erden, right? That is very close to the word Odeon, just 2 letters flipped around. So Odeon definition. So an Odeon, move me over here. So an Odeon it's a word that's usually used now for theaters, but the idea is it's a word that is it denotes that a place has been constructed to conduct sound. Like, it's, see there, a building for musical performances, because it's like a building that conducts sound really well. And what's Erden? Erden is a voice. So that's why he's called Erden. He's just this weird voice, and he takes the name, or is given the name, I'm assuming. That refers to like a place that conducts sound really well, because he is just like something that exists in voice. So that's what Erden is. Erden is a presence that is seemingly localized around Erden Chapel. There's actually a video on Erden that we did with Redgrave, and basically Erden is sort of around Erden Chapel. When you run into NPCs that have some connection to the chapel, they end up with Erden runes in their heads. So like the chapel dwellers got formless Erden. Gascoigne's child, who like knows where Gascoigne is, I think, ends up with an Erden rune in her head. I know there's some other ones, like Adela ends up with an Erden rune in her head because she's been like around Cathedral Ward. So it's like Erden is there and is like getting into people's heads through the mysterious Erden voice, and Erden is trying to have a baby. There's actually some consistency with who does and doesn't get Erden runes and what kind of runes they get. That's in the Erden video, so just go onto our channel and type Erden. So how is Cos pregnant? So hang on, I reckon freak. This is some nice shots of Cos in the free cam. There we go. Okay. Okay, so there was a question earlier about like, is the moon presence like Queen Yharnam, and like, I honestly feel like if any of the great ones are supposed to be reminiscent of the Queen, it's probably Cos, who's over here, because the camera's. It's Cos, because if you look at Cos, like, she looks like. Oz actually is, and I'm absolutely certain this is intentional. She looks like a woman in a wedding dress. Like she's got this big, like billowing white body, and then she has the tentacles coming down across her face like a veil. So Cos actually looks a lot like this, and she's been like cut open along the abdomen, and the Queen's been cut along the abdomen. So the question of like how she had a baby is like she is doing what Queen Yharnam does, where like Queen Yharnam is carrying the child of a great one, but she's never given birth. And the child's actually dead inside her, which is incredibly disturbing. It's one of the like really gross bits of Bloodborne. Yharnam Stone. So this is Queen Yharnam's child. So Queen Yharnam's baby is literally just like a sort of dead fetus inside her womb. But because of the way that Bloodborne's world works, like if you're significantly powerful, being dead isn't that much of an impediment because you survive as like a presence or like a voice or some sort of disembodied entity. So Cos and Queen Yharnam are doing the same thing where like their child's in them. And it's like in Queen Yharnam's case, it's almost certainly like clinically, physically dead. Not 100% sure about how Cos works, but like the idea is the baby is in her, it hasn't come out yet. So when Cos gets cut open, actually, hang on, let's. This is what the fishing hamlet people are saying. So, I'm in the way. There we go. There. There. So, this is what the, when you're in the Bloodborne, when you're in the fishing hamlet and you hear all the people in the houses chanting, and they're like muttering to themselves, it's all laid over itself. So it's kind of confusing to listen to because you just hear like blah, 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 and you can sort of make out words like cause, suffering, see, whatever. But one of the lines specifically, because we have now got the file separately, is they say, "Mother is dead, her baby taken." So, Cos was gutted, and then the baby, like the orphan of Cos, was taken away. So like it's not like there was a giant old man in Cos at the time. Like you have to look at it as like a nightmare afterlife situation. So Cos's baby was taken away. It wasn't like left there. It didn't stay in her, and it's not like she didn't die pregnant and they just left her. They actually like did a cesarean and took the child out. And that child is this one. This is what happens to Orphan of Cos. It's the cord that Impostor Yosefka is holding in this scene. It says, oh my god. So this is the description specifically of the one you get from Impostor Yosefka, and it says, Provost Willem sought the cord in order to elevate his being. So this is the one that Bergenworth initially went out to get back before, like, there was a healing church, before there was a schism, before they were screwing. Hey, Math's here! Hey! So yeah, this is the cord that Willem gets from Orphan of Cos in the hamlet. So like Cos is gutted. They pull like it's not clear what state the orphan was in. It's possible the orphan was just like a pile of organs. It was dead or something. and they get the cord, and then Willem takes that to Bergenworth. That's how Rom becomes a spider, because Micolash is the one saying, "Oh, Cos, as you once did for the vacuous Rom, grant us eyes." And Cos is the one that blessed Rom. How did that happen? It happened through the third chord. See how it's all kind of connecting. Yeah, so that's the state. We can actually show you. I'll go into the map viewer. This is the best look at what Orphan of Cos might have looked like before it was a weird old man. This. That is, I think, as close as you can reasonably get to what the Orphan probably looked like. This is like the sort of shadow version that appears when you beat the boss. The thing about that is you don't see it here because of the way it's posed, but like when it initially starts, it's curled up kind of like a snake, and then it uncurls to rise out of Cos. Which I actually can't show off because of the way the map view works, but if you look at like stages of fetal development, it basically looks like good one. It looks like a very, very, very early in development fetus, where it's basically just like a head with like a spine and like cord. Like it looks sort of like that without a happy face. The wrong side. It looks kind of like that. Like it's this curled up, like partially developed fetus thing, and then it uncurls like a cobra sort of rising up. And when it rises up, you get the snake version. You get the version that you encounter after the boss. So that's probably as good as you can get a look at like what the Orphan really looked like before it was like dissected and its body parts taken to Bergenworth. The version that you're actually fighting, that's not like what the Orphan looked like. That's like, you have to think about like the way the nightmare works, where like everything in there is sort of warped and twisted and things. So the Orphan's been there. We talked about this last episode actually. The Orphan has been in the nightmare because it died. It's been stuck in the nightmare for how long? We don't know. Like, I think the timeline of Bloodborne's probably about from the Hamlet massacre to the present, between 20 and 25 years, I'd say is reasonable. So this like child died before it was even born, and it's been stewing in the nightmare for God knows how long, like 25 years, but who knows what that means within nightmare time. And it's over time, it's just mutated sort of, or transformed. I guess it's become transfigured. It's become a monster because it all it is just like the anger and rage has sort of manifested as this thing. But that's not what the Orphan like was. It was literally like a baby, and it died when it was a baby. And this is like, it's sort of, if you had like what form its soul took would be the simplest way to explain it. Like it takes the form of this horrible sort of like screaming old man. Like Meth actually brought this up in the last episode we did. Like it's got like its placenta has become a blade that is very, very similar to German's blade. And if you buy that like German's the one that cut Cos open, which I think is probably like, they never say it, but like based on like the way like the German and the Orphan have this weird relationship where like when the Orphan is crying, you hear German crying. It's like it's torturing German specifically. Like this is all like, so that's not actually, well, hang on. Oh god, what's it called? Buddhist hell for children. There's a specific place. The river. So. Yeah. So this is sort of what the fishing helmet's getting at. So this is the Buddhism has, I think it has like 800 different hells in it. Instead of just having one hell where there's a variety of punishments, like 800 different hells. This is the hell over here. This is the hell that children are sent to if they die before their parents, which is what happened to the orphan. And you can see there's these towers of stones. And that is what the children are condemned to do. Like, their punishment in the afterlife is they have to stack these towers of stones. And if the tower gets high enough, they can finally, like, get redeemed and leave. But that Oni there is wandering around and see it's knocking the tower over. That's why, like, that child there is crying. Because the Onis walked along and smashed the tower. So they have to start all over again. We go to... I recognize that the fishing hamlet. Oh, it's actually you know what I mean. Like, you've seen it. The fishing hamlet. That area where you first start when you first come out of the clock face. Hang on. You first pop out of that clock face. It's where the Hamlet priest is there. You can see that. They're... Oh, I'm in the way again. They're also making little towers. Like, that's very deliberately evocative of the hell that the children are sent to if they die before their parents. And... let's have the look of the Hamlet is very small. A movie called Jigoku, where they go to... They literally, like, there we go. Fishing Hamlet entrance. Yeah, so Jigoku is a movie. Jigoku means hell. And one of the key points of that movie is that the characters are led here. And they're led through the afterlife by the sound of a child crying. So, again, that's kind of where, like, you can see that they're drawing from a lot of different influences. And then the thing about oh god, because it's so late now. Like, the thing about storytelling in Souls is that, like, I never found it, like, confusing per se. I always found, like, it's just very heavily reliant on context. So, like, you'll see things that, like, aren't necessarily connected on screen, but then contextually you can link them together. And that's why, like, if you look at all the imagery and the characters and everything that the Souls games have, like, they're mostly taken wholesale from other things. Like, the designs of, like, bosses and areas and, like, NPCs and everything. It's just, like, you will go through, you will find, like, you know, a character in a manga or something that's, like, entirely take... Actually, hang on, let's go. I can find you the best one. That's Micolash. There's a character in it's a chapter of Uzumaki that's, like, I think it's called the Lost Chapter. But there is a mad astronomer. Here we go. There is a mad astronomer who is like running around screaming about like the cosmos, and he just looks exactly like Micolash. But like the point is, it's not like they're just stealing it. Like it's recontextualized. Like it's using that imagery and that kind of character, but it's putting them in a different kind of story and doing different things with them. So it doesn't come across as them just like lifting something. So like I know sometimes people get like annoyed if you point out the references because they assume that you're calling it unoriginal and you're not. It's just like it's what they do with them. So what they end up doing with like the Micolash character is, even though clearly like this is the inspiration, it's still wholly different to what Junji Ito's doing with his like Micolash point. So again, like when they're wholesale borrowing things from movies, it doesn't matter because like Bloodborne's really heavily influenced by Brotherhood of the Wolf, but it's not Brotherhood of the Wolf. It's actually nothing like Brotherhood of the Wolf. It's obviously drawing a lot from Lovecraft, but like Lovecraft would never have written anything like this. It's like counter to Lovecraft in a lot of ways. Like so I just feel like I need to say that because whenever I bring up references, someone thinks I'm like claiming the game as a ripoff or something when I'm not. What do we have left? So we've got questions about like male great ones. So this is interesting again because like great ones, they don't really have sexes. Like Erden is called he, and he has like a male function in reproduction that he impregnates Ariana. But then like let's go back to our mom cause. If you look at like cause and like a lot of them, they're all really, really heavily like the designs and everything are taken from like mollusks. They're really into like mollusks and cephalopods and things. And like the thing about a lot of mollusks is that like they're hermaphrodite organisms. They don't like have like they'll have like it's weird to think about because like if they could think of themselves they wouldn't think of themselves as being male or female. They just have like a complete reproductive system, and then that will like parts of it will shut down and activate at different points in their life. So like this is a little fun fact. If you ever see two snails mating, like they're crawling all over each other and there's bubbles everywhere, what they're actually doing is they are trying to stab each other. So what they make a little dart out of calcium that's covered in hormones, and they crawl on each other, and they try to like they're kind of jousting with these little tiny bone darts. And whoever gets stabbed first, the hormones in the dart shut down the parts we would think of as the male parts of the reproductive system, and it activates the female parts of the reproductive system. And of course, if snails could think of themselves that way, they wouldn't think of themselves as male or female because they have both sets. They wouldn't even think of it as two sets, they just think of it as like that's the system. And that's how they reproduce. They literally joust, and then whoever gets stabbed first is the one that gets impregnated and carries the eggs, and the one that stabbed them is the one that inseminates them. So, and that's true of like cephalopods, mollusks. They just have like really, really kind of like wholly distinct ways of reproducing. So when I see something like Oz, it's clearly heavily like it's sort of a squid, it's sort of a whale, it's sort of a slug. They for all we know, Cos just like got themselves pregnant. Like they may just spontaneously generate children. It's not clear where the child came from. It's not clear like did the Moon Presence ever have children? Because the Moon Presence's abdomen has been torn out. So like, was it ever pregnant? I'll show you. People a lot of snail chat. Full of love dart. There's that. That's two snails. See, they're trying to stab each other with these little darts. That's what they look like. And that's basically, it's basically force fem. So they get stabbed with a little dart that just like pumps them full of what's basically HRT, and then the like different parts of their bodies start turning on and off, and that affects how they mate. So like in the concepts of like cos or something, like who goddamn knows how the reproduction works in Great Ones? Because like Erden just requires blood. Erden just needs Canehurst blood to have a child. So it's not even clear like how does that even work through reproduction? Is just willing a child into being. Anyway, that's so yeah. This just wrapping around like the concept of male Great Ones is sort of because I don't even know how they see themselves like Amygdala, are they Great Ones? All back and forth, but like I don't know how this thing has sex. I don't know how this thing has kids. Does it lay eggs? Like it kind of looks like a spider, so I guess it would lay eggs, maybe. But like what? So is what I'm saying. Yeah. No one knows. But yeah, I imagine like at a certain point, like it just doesn't matter. Also, Erden, like I think really the only reason you'd think of Erden as male is Erden doesn't have a body anymore. So Erden couldn't get pregnant because there's no body to get pregnant. So by definition, needs to go in people's blood. It's like a very very weird discussion, which I'm perfectly willing to have. So we've got two more questions. One is, what are phantasms? Yeah, the stork delivers baby Great Ones. So this is the weird thing, because you'd think phantasms are slugs, but then apparently they leave shells behind. And yeah, slugs, there are slugs that have shells. They're called semi-slugs, but not like that. That's like a casting, like a cocoon. It's almost like that used to be a phantasm, and it like left like a cicada shell behind, and it hatched into something else. There's also like the phantasms are in the black sky eye, those little crawling things. And it mentions like the lumen wood thing, like it just fills your body with phantasms, and you'll hang on. I wonder, because I don't know much about the weapons. I wonder if it's going to have all the cos parasite moves in it. Because cos parasite has a bunch of really weird moves. The cos parasite has a bunch of. It has a move where, like, if you backstep and do a transformation attack, you just go. Blah! And all of these little slugs, they're the slugs from the fishing hamlet. You just like vomit out a giant like cloud of slugs that are presumably inside your body, and they just land on the ground. So like the idea is phantasm just seems to be like a catch-all term for like strange invertebrates that are found throughout the labyrinth, and it calls them augurs of the Great Ones. I think it's augur of Ebrietus that mentions it. Hey John, we're actually about to call it a night because it's almost 2 a.m. and I have stuff to do tomorrow. So like, yeah, it talks about that they're augurs, and I'm not 100% what exactly they mean by augur here, because my read on that is just that like they're an augur in the sense that like an augur is like a prophet, and I always sort of took it as like when they found I think they actually when they first found them, that was a sign that the Great Ones were nearby. Yeah, here we are. Slugs are the signs of the left behind Great Ones. So I always sort of took like augur to mean like they found a bunch of weird slugs, and that was the clue slash like yeah, that was sort of what led them to realize, oh, there must be other things down here. If you find the slugs, you will probably find the Great Ones if you keep looking. And they were an augur in that sense. It's like I found them, and that means the Great Ones are nearby. But there's also references to like the phantasms in your brain and your body and everything when you're a milkweed. Yes, Ingrid, I know. When you're in milkweed form, that like those are guiding you. So there's all this like. I think what word do they use in Jap? I think the word they use is almost like familiar. Uh, yeah, they use phantasms to reach a lofty plane of darkness. And like when you use a call beyond, like you don't usually see it because of the way the camera works, but you actually pull a slug out and go like like that, and it makes this big explosion. So like there's sort of like a conduit, I think, of the Great Ones. They have some of that, like they mentioned causes for all these parasites that like they have like a symbiotic relationship with them. I'm trying to find. I think the word is actually like something like familiar. Yeah, it's spirit. They just use the word. They just called like the spirits. So it's almost like oh, hang on. Here's a good hand Hidodama. So like, if you used to like, if you're a weeb, used to your animus, you probably have noticed that like they really like doing this. It's called Hidodama, where it's like anything particularly neat's going down, like someone is very powerful or something like that. Suddenly all this like flames start appearing. And I always saw them like that. It's like they're just sort of drawn. They're just like these little lingering spirits in the bugs. Anyway. Yeah, so it's like got my little Hidodama around me. You have little slugs around you. So I always thought it was like that. But yeah, it's one of those things like I get it. It's like when you have a lot of Great One stuff going on, there's these little slugs, and the slugs form symbiotic relationships with the Great Ones, which means that if you grab one of the slugs or parasites or whatever they are, you can then use that to tap into some of the Great One's power. Like, I get that. It's just one of those things where the more that you think about it and try to rationalize the mechanics of it, it doesn't really work. So we have one more thing, and then I'm gonna go, and it's what, where, why astrolabes of Bloodborne. So this is another example of the upside Bergenworth. It's good. I was watching this back the other day, and my previous one. Jesus fucking Christ! Never find the right. Here we go. So astrolabes. Here's one. This is sort of like we talked about upside down Bergenworth. If you sort of think about it, like it is a little weird that there's a lot of stuff on the ceiling. Like, I know that, like, yeah, it still works and everything, but it's a very weird place, Astrolabe. So, there's that one. There's one in Erden Chapel. Yeah, it is actually. It is a chandelier. They're using an astrolabe as a chandelier, which is really strange. But yeah, this sort of ties back into when we were saying, like, what's the planet of Bloodborne like? Like, there's clearly they think there's a solar system and there's celestial bodies and everything, whereas they wouldn't have an astrolabe. But and, like, there's like the astral clock as well. So there's like real fixing. It's and then like the choir go out into space mentally and harness exploding stars. So presumably there is a cosmos outside of that, unlike Dark Souls is all over the place, but like you sort of get the impression that Dark Souls is like it's such a sort of mythic world that like it's flat. And there's like a sun and a moon. And that's sort of it. And trying to conceptualize the rest of it doesn't really work because it's like, well, isn't the world held up by a bunch of trees that are on a lake? And the more you think about it, the less sense it makes. Because Bloodborne like does seem to be on like a roughly spherical planet in space. Oh hey Chris, actually we are just about to finish up because I can't really physically go on much longer because it's almost 2 a.m. and my body thinks it's almost 3 a.m. because we just had daylight saving. But I think we got through all of the what we're wise that we were asked to do. Yeah, that is actually all of them. Yeah, wow, we did them. Okay, cool. We did them all. Sin's had to go to do things with her family. I am still here at 1:45. And yeah, so thank you everyone for sticking around. Before we go, I'll just again plug what we're doing here. So the reason that we've been doing a lot of Bloodborne content, a lot of it's been live, is that it's Return to Yharnam, and every Return to Yharnam we try to raise money to keep the Bloodborne wiki running. Meth, who runs the wiki and also pays for the wiki, is in the chat. People who've maybe missed when we talked about it before, let's go over it again. So one of the things about online Bloodborne content is that there is a lot of weird misinformation and sort of like games of telephone and things that cause wikis to not be accurate, and that was compounded by the fact that when the game came out, it came with a strategy guide that was based on an earlier version, so quite a lot of Bloodborne's mechanics were just not understood for a very long time. And one of the things that Bloodborne Wiki does is that by not being a Fextra or a fandom wiki, and basically just being run by Meth, designed by Meth, laid out by Meth, it can also be fact-checked by Meth, and she can make sure that whenever there's an article on it, it's written by people who know what they're doing and they've tested it all. Trying to find a good example. So a good example of that way would be the way that this page on the Shaman Boneblade works. There's a lot of information here about like what enemies Shaman Boneblade does and doesn't work on, and that was literally done because we didn't know and we wanted to be 100% sure by going into the game and just spending a weekend. It was Trin and Meth and I just using Shaman Boneblades on every single enemy in the game and writing down whether it worked or not. And we did the same thing for Pungent Blood Cocktails. which led us to discover a lot of like interesting things that we initially didn't know and I think had been documented. So like we mentioned this on the iceberg that we did, but like Dark Beast Parl follows pungent blood cocktails. I'd never seen that written down anywhere. I'm sure someone knew it. I'm sure like a lot of people had just thrown pungent blood cocktails and Parl chased them, but like we actually got it 100% confirmed that Dark Beast Parl and the Lauren Dark Beast, who is Dark Beast Parl with a different moveset, actually just different name and higher stats, they'll all chase it. Other ones won't. Cleric Beast won't do it. Vicar Amelia will do it. Gascoigne won't do it. But for some reason, Dark Beast Parl will do it. That's sort of weird stuff that you find. Like you've got here, it attracts the Labyrinth Madmen, those like screaming guys in the chalices that run really quickly with the sickles. They're attracted to it. There's one specific variant of a clock tower patient that it's attracted to, but not the others. So all this interesting stuff that like, you know, and also like I'll show there's a lot of there's a lot of unused content stuff that's just all backed up here. So like Bloodborne's cut stuff, it's kind of well documented in some ways, but also like it's just really good to have it all in one place. So there's just all these like here's Japanese names for certain items. Here are like here's the alpha menu assets. You can see like this very, very placeholdery looking stuff like that. Those are clearly like Dark Souls upgrade items, but then you've also got like what would later become the Chard Hunter set with Dura's Cap, Blunderbuss icon. You've got like old version of the Hunter's Mark, and it's just like here's the old stats we talked about. Like if anyone knows Demon Souls, this is kind of very reminiscent of that, where these are actually the menu icons for various stats. So instead of having like strength, dexterity, whatever, you just had these weird runes, which is like super Demon Souls thing, which they don't do anymore. This is actually one of the older things that we're currently revamping, because these were grabbed back before I had the models, and I have the models now, and I have actually got a full like gallery where everything is kind of shot from the right, like, you know, left, right. It's like a police mugshot from the front and the sides and the back. And just little things like this, like, for instance, here is an old version of the Witch of Hemwick's boss room's reflection asset. You can see Vicar Amelia. We also have, oh, hang on, I'm going to bring up things I worked on because I can tell you the stories behind them. Firearms. So one of the big like back and forths in the fandom was people thought that Evelyn fired faster than the other pistols. So you can see down there is actually a comparison. So pull this out. That's me. That's me in Moonside Lake. Those are rifles, you want pistols. That's me in Moonside Lake. Taking recording myself from the exact same angle, firing every firearm in the game, and then looking at that in footage editor frame by frame to write down exactly on what frame each weapon fires and how long it takes to like cool down for the next shot. Here's the pistols, here's the rifles, here's the cannons, and here's the like you hold L2 for constant damage ones. So this is like, you know, there was an people thought Evelyn fired faster, no one knew, so it was kind of up to Bloodborne Wiki to go, well, we'll just have to figure this out the hard way by taking footage and literally counting the frames. and there is all the frame data. And I know for a fact, because she mentioned it, that when Lilith was making Bloodborne PSX, she actually used some of the data from here to do that. It just wasn't anywhere else, because like Bloodborne wasn't a PC game, so you can kind of do it now, but you couldn't at the time crack it open and actually get access. Like, you know, like the hitboxes and like iframes and things like that. You just had to do it by eye, and that's what we ended up doing. We showed her off a bit before, Yharnam. This is another thing that like I remember us working on. Is that other people probably realized this, but like I was the reason that we wrote it down. Is that I was beast drawing everything, and I realized you could beast draw Yharnam when she's in the Nightmare of Menses, and it makes her fall over. And then she has like a home base, like that spot where she's praying, and she just walks back toward it. If you keep beast drawing her, she just keeps getting further and further away from it. You can actually shove her around the place by doing this. You can make her go places she shouldn't go by just beast drawing her. And also means you can, yeah, you get to see her shoot. And you get to see like Yharnam just has like a walking animation, which she doesn't use in the boss fight. There's all this like old stuff here that like this is very like esoteric stuff. One of the things I'll talk about it again because I brought it up before, but new people are here. Like the press kit art, like this wasn't online. None of this had been scanned or uploaded anywhere until like December of 2019. Like we knew the press kit existed, but we didn't have a physical copy, so like I went and I got a copy of it and scanned the whole thing in. Because there was no, like, it just did not exist outside of this. This is like what we're doing. Like I mentioned that the way the galleries are done of the bosses, like Bloodborne doesn't have a photo mode. So and it didn't have a model viewer that we could use. So this was all done by Xtren, who just figured out how to disable boss AI and just took screenshots from within the game to get all this. There's a really nice moon present. So again, like it, you might look at that and think like, okay, it's just a screenshot of the moon presence, but like the actual amount of work that went into this was like astounding. Considering like, you know, there had to be like save editors used and like, God, so much. There's also an archive of the Tomb Prospector things that the Tomb Prospectors have found. They're just like weird rooms. It's just an archive of like all the different rooms you can get, just like slightly different doors. You know, slightly glitched doors. Like here's the standard rooms, here's rooms touched. So this is all mapped out. This is the big, yeah, like this is every single possible dungeon that the game can generate, fully mapped out. That will tell you like, there's the glyph, there's like the map hex value. There's like boss layer 1, boss layer 2, boss layer 3. Then it'll give you like the kind of layout it used, it'll tell you where everything is. Like it's so in depth. And like this has all been tested, so again, like if you ran into that stuff, like I remember Beth and I laughed about this for a while, but like there was a thing, I think it was on Fextra, that said that the wooden shield was a drop from the huntsman in Central Yharnam. Like if you killed them enough, one would drop the wooden shield. And you can see where that came from because you find the wooden shield on a corpse of a huntsman. But like that's not how it works. So clearly someone's seen the shield and gone, "Oh, I must have killed that person." But like that's the sort of stuff that like that was on like oh that was on a wiki people were using and people probably believed it. And just things like, you know, enemy names. I remember there was another, I think this was Fextra also, where like someone, I'm not saying they did a bad job, like it was alright, but someone had written little poems about the enemies. It's still on Fextra, good god. Someone had written like flavor text about enemies, some of which were poems, and they would have references to like, you know, is this sharper than Ludwig's nerve and things like that. And it's like, for the longest time, people thought those were official. And they were from like some like guidebook that no one else had. And it's like, no, someone just made them up. And they ended up being repeated. The worst example is like, it's not a big deal, but like enemy names when the game came out, we didn't have official enemy names. People made names up and they stuck. Like to this day, like we still call the big guys with the bricks in Central Yharnam brick trolls. They're not called that. They're called Hunter's Minions. But that stuck. You know, Migo Zombie sometimes sticks. Bound Widows stuck for a while, and it's like it's also there's just info in the guide because it was based on an older version, so it'd say like there are boss rush chalices, there's a ritual that makes the ROM spiders appear. All this stuff is just not in the game anymore. So basically, what I'm getting at is like, this wiki exists for a reason, and it's set up this way for a reason, so that everything can be fact checked and everything can be properly archived. And there is like checks and balances in place to keep it all running. And the fact that it's all done effectively by one person who is in the chat right now is incredible. And I don't know of anything else like this for any other game. Like, I know of like community projects that will like disassemble the entirety of Final Fantasy VI and give you like what every single hex address does. But like that's a whole lot of people working together, and it's basically an Excel table. This is a fully made, like, I'm gonna turn my little camera off for a second so you can see, like, look at the top of the screen. Like, there's all these little messengers that like Meth made those. She got the assets from the game and she made these little messengers. There's like little mascots, and there's actually a little community events page called the Messengers Log. And again, like all those little messenger things, Neff made those herself as like something like it's a hobby of hers, but they're really, really good. And you can see like she's made little like tiny versions of all the different like armor and like some weapons and things. Yeah, you just love making them, but like it's incredible that you do this. And this is a little community events page where we hold little content. And like here's some little riddles that Meth wrote these. And then there's some that I yeah, so this is like I made these little like crossword things where you had to fill out like Yeah, this was like different kinds of blood. So the answers were like ritual blood, vile blood, beast blood, ashen blood, pale blood. And then you had to get the certain letters from them and rearrange those to form another word. So that's spelled droplet. And this was like Canehurst, so it's like dress, castle, Chicago, Evelyn, Queen, summons, Rakuyo, and that spells martyr. So just like things like this, like everyone is just sort of like working together and doing this stuff together. The game is like it's going to be a decade old soon, and people are still, the community is still going very strong. And this is like a bunch of weird anagram puzzles I made where you had to like decode a weird little statement, and it was actually an anagram of something in the game. So there's just like so much going on here that like a lot of people I think probably don't know about, because you just sort of you maybe look up like the stats of a weapon or stats of a gem or something. But there's so much going on this site, and yeah, it's incredible. So put this thing up one more time. So if you just want to kick Meth some money because she is the one that has to pay to host all this, you can notice that like there aren't ads on it. It's not hosted somewhere like Fandom or Fextra or something like that that uses ads. It's just like this is all paid for out of her own pocket. So if you could give her like a little bit of money, if you happen to have some lying around, I know it's like cost of living thing not doing great for a lot of people. There's something not doing great for me, but like doesn't have to be now. Just at any time in the future, if you think about like maybe just going to coffee.com/Mephistophea and just like giving her $5 or $10 or something to keep the thing running to the standard that it is, because like we passed 20 million views recently, and when you think about how much stuff is on here, like I can show you like we have is it gonna yeah, like this has unused cutscenes on it. So again, like this is on a Google Drive. Like the Google Drive costs money. It costs money to keep the thing. Like you have to pay for that storage space. And when you consider like there's these fairly large like videos that are being like these aren't on YouTube. These are not like a free hosting platform. This is something that has to be paid. It's like these unused cutscenes. Like it's just like this have to there's like bandwidth to worry about, storage space. Um there's like again like it's this level of obsession. I'm allowed to make fun of this because I made this where it's like is every single difference in every different iteration of the Mogo's Wet Nurse cutscene. Um is like comparison shots between like uh an unused cutscene and like a trailer. So essentially, like, if anything is known anywhere about Bloodborne, it's on this wiki. Like again, like earlier versions of Shadows of Yharnam. A lot of this is from again. A lot of this is from like Lance McDonald or other like data miners, but you're getting it all in one place. Like it's all actually sat here and organized, and you can just scroll through it, which is I find really really useful. And it's all kind of like you can I've got like the exact percentage chances of various things happening with the doll. These unused like blood gems that are inside rocks. You got this is what I was looking for earlier, the Book of Carol pages, bullet recovery, all of this stuff. It's like yeah. Again, I don't I don't really know of like anything else that's remotely. You can see I'm starting to get sick. uh, anyway, so uh, yeah, so I'm actually going to have to go soon because it's past 2 o'clock in the morning. So thanks everyone for coming. As opposed to what's in terms of what's happening next. So we have a Bloodborne video we haven't recorded yet, which is another one about Lawrence. We have an episode on what is headcanon, which has been recorded with the lady that runs the Dark Souls headcanon Tumblr. So we've recorded that. That's like an interesting little discussion because the Souls games leave so much open to like be filled in that there's this interesting relationship between like what's headcanon and what's like, you know, how much of it is like people just plugging in gaps and how much of it is like you're sort of building on what's already there to the point where what you consider headcanon is essentially what they were saying anyway. And you know, that's in the middle of being edited now. Then we gotta fill in some stuff before Elden. We've got an Elden Ring DLC coming out in a couple of months. So after we've just focused on Bloodborne so much this month because it's been turned to Yharnam. We're probably not going to do like an incredibly long series of Bloodborne videos again for a little while. We're going to focus on some other stuff. We are going to do some Bloodborne stuff, but we're not going to focus on it like we have been lately. This was so. Yeah, thanks everyone for sticking around. And it's been great. It's been really good revisiting this. I think it's a real testament to how invested a lot of the fandom is that we've done. This is how long has this been going for? 4 hours. We have done in the last 2 weeks. We have done 11 hours of Bloodborne content in which we have not actually played the game. We have just talked about it. My PS4 is in another room, switched off, and it has been for, I think, 4 months. And yet we're still able to get 11 fucking hours of content out of Bloodborne by just talking about it and looking at little bits and pieces of it in a window. And I think that really says a lot about how good it is and the kind of relationship people have with it, because I can't really think of anything else that would have gone like this. You can actually the last time I actually played Bloodborne was last year's Return to Yharnam when I did the time zone manipulation with Altair. I haven't opened the game since then. Which is why I was a little off. I had to look a few things up. But yeah, I hadn't touched it, and we still made so much content. We had so many things to talk about. Next year is going to be the big 10-0. So we need to plan something special for that. So we'll hopefully have something going then. And I was actually thinking that as far as I remember, the Demon's Souls remake was announced in 2019, which was 10 years after Demon's Souls came out. So maybe 2025 is going to be the year that we get the Bloodborne remake for PS6 in it. That's true. Yeah, it's one of this is still not on the level of Quinton reviews. Don't tempt me. The thing is, like, people watch us and, like, I've never even played a Souls game, but I like listening to you. And I'm just thinking, like, that doesn't make sense. And then I'm like, Sophie, you watched that 4-hour episode about iCarly. You've never seen iCarly, you've never gone to. And I'm like, that's true. Sometimes you just get wrapped up in. But yeah, so that'll be that's it for tonight. It is 2:15 a.m. and daylight saving just hit, so my body thinks it's 3:15 a.m. And I will see you all around. Thank you so much for stopping by. It's really nice just like seeing the same people in chat who were also here last year and 3 years ago and 5 years ago, and also just seeing new people show up, because it just shows that, like, I think the thing that we brought up at the very start of the stream is like, this is how I met functionally all of my friends who don't live in the same town as me. And the fact that, like, we are all still friends and we are actually friends, as opposed to people who just talk about video games all day. Like, I just, like, Sin and I just talk about our lives. We're just friends with a lot of, like, fan artists and fanfic writers and things, because we just happened to meet through this and we just stayed friends through that. And yeah, a lot of people in the community have been through really, really tough spots, and everyone's kind of banded together to help each other. And I think it's just been a really wonderful experience to be part of the community. So on that note, say good.